that it's not like up to you to decide what's fair or unfair when Reese answered that question? I'm going to answer it. It's unfair as hell for you to go to the Rose Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, get in the Final Four, come out being ranked #1 this year, an expectation that you created by what you accomplished at Penn State. And for those people not to show enough appreciation for that and gratitude for all the hard work that you did, I'm saying it's unfair.
I'm saying it's unfair. Those were the words of Nick Saban after you, I, and everybody else threw out James Franklin's record, Diesel, against top 10 teams. We know what that record was, but the question now becomes, because Nick Saban said what he said, does that change our mind on the firing of James Franklin that happened almost 2 weeks ago now? Welcome into Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. So good to be with you on this Tolo Tuesday, a beautiful Tuesday afternoon here in the upstate. Go ahead and start interacting, Tolos, at 844-326-3663. Want to get your thoughts on what Nick Saban said on Saturday when it comes to James Franklin and the firing and the dismissal from Penn State. Diesel, I'll start with you on this one. Did what Nick Saban said alter your thinking in any way in terms of James Franklin and whether he deserved to be fired or not?
Well, I'm going to answer your question with a question. How fast do you think Pat Kraft called James Franklin back and said, "Oh, sorry, James, Jimmy, Bubala, come back to college, come back to Penn State, be with us. We were sorry. We didn't mean it." That didn't happen. It didn't
Probably
happen.
not.
It didn't happen because it's not ever going to change any athletic director's mind when it comes to big time donors. He who holds the gold card makes the rules. Anytime the people who have the money, who are willing to say, "Not going to give it to you anymore if you don't fire this guy," that's what happens. That's what happens. The people with the money make the rules, and the people with the money decided a long time ago that what James Franklin was providing to the university, and I talked about it a couple weeks ago before the firing happened, and I put it in one of my sports spins, and I said 35 wins over 3 years. Is that not good enough for you? A lot of the Tolos and you yourself, Cole, said no.
Yeah.
His record against top 10 teams is why he should be fired. Well, it's not good enough. It's not fair, but that's also why he's getting paid like $40 million to go away.
Yeah.
It's not like he had a 1-month severance. Peace out. Good luck putting your kid through college. It's we're gonna pay you handsomely to work here. We're going to pay you handsomely to win the biggest games, and then we're going to pay you handsomely to go away.
Well, I agree with you on the AD side of it, but the question was, does it change your mind, Diesel? Does it change not the AD? We all know the AD's mind's not being changed, but does what Nick Saban said change your mind, you, the Tolos out there, in terms of what you thought when James Franklin got fired, hearing Nick Saban say what he said on Saturday on College Game Day, and now a few days later, depending on where you originally were on the firing, does it change your mind at all?
No, because the expectations were always going to be really high. Like, James deserves a lot of credit because with help of Bill O'Brien before him, they brought this program back from the brink. I mean, it was as low as it could possibly go. Penn State football was a laughingstock. And he got paid a tremendous amount of money to do his job, and he was allowed to do it for almost a decade there at Penn State. It doesn't change my mind because that's why these guys get paid. They all know the business. They all know what they signed up for. What matters, it doesn't matter once you get to that level of coaching. It doesn't matter that you're beating the crap out of Rutgers. It doesn't matter that you're beating the crap out of Eastern Michigan in week 2 of the season. What matters is how you perform against the best of the best, because now those fans take those Eastern Michigan and the Rutgers and the Minnesotas, they take those wins for granted. They assume those wins are going to happen. So you're not judged on those wins anymore. Granted, he was fired after losing to Northwestern, a team you're not supposed to lose to.
Sure. And that's why I asked the question, because Diesel, I've said this multiple times on the show before, and I think it's good to remember for us, is just for all people, regardless of it being sports related or not, I think it's good to be able to have your opinion formulate and change based on other things that happen. For example, I was in the boat, and you just said it. I was in the boat when James Franklin got fired, and even last year, Diesel, I was very adamant that James Franklin wasn't getting the job done, right? And then he gets fired, and it's like, oh my gosh, did that really happen, right? You kind of smack yourself. And then you hear what Nick Saban said. And for any Tolos who just tuned into the show, I'll play that audio for you again in just a second. But you hear what Nick Saban said. And with Nick Saban being, Diesel, as big of a voice as he is in college football and being kind of the authority, right, when it comes to what college football fans feel and think, I'm not going to lie to you. It didn't completely change my opinion. I still think James Franklin deserved to be fired and held accountable because of his inability to win when it mattered. But hearing Nick Saban say what he said from a coaching perspective, him having coached for as long as he did, it does make me feel a little bit different. This much,
Yeah.
a little bit different, just because I always want to be open to new ideas, new opinions, and never be like so concrete that I can't ever change my opinion.
DFIG on the text line, 844-326-3663. Get your thoughts in to us. He says, Nick Saban has gone soft. Nick Saban has gone soft. Well, Nick Saban was making $10 million a year to go out there and beat Florida and LSU and Georgia and Tennessee. He wasn't getting paid $10 million to beat Vandy and Samford, right? So your expectations, again, become cemented that you're supposed to beat the weakest of the weak. That's why you got hired in the first place, because the guy before you probably wasn't getting that done. And then you get paid to go out there and beat the best of the best. You get paid to go out there and make it into the playoff. Otherwise, you get fired. Your ass is grass. You go somewhere else. You find something else to do, or you join someone's staff, rehab your image. In a couple of years from now, people will look back on your tenure where you were before with rosier glasses, and they'll say, oh, you know what? This guy was actually a pretty good coach. We're going to give him another shot, and we're going to give him a $5, $6, $7 million salary to do it. So, the expectation may be unfair. If you want to talk about unfair, Nick, the expectation on the next guy they hire, that is unfair.
Maybe.
Right? Because you're going to have a new coach, a new staff, an entirely new team who will only be judged on what they do against top 10 teams. Or that guy will be fired as well 3 to 4 years from now.
And JB on the YouTube stream real quick before we get to some more audio from what James Franklin said Saturday, because it was really fascinating. JB was asking about his record against top 25 teams. He was 17-26, Diesel, against top 25 teams. However, when you go against the top of the top, the best, he was 4-21 against top 10 teams, 1-10 against Ohio State specifically. So we all know that he could recruit, but for whatever reason, the demise of the Buckeyes and him or his inability to beat the Buckeyes, that didn't help, right? A few more wins against Ohio State, and maybe James Franklin still has a job. And to your point, very unfair expectations, but welcome to the world of college football in 2025, right?
That's why the salaries are what the salaries are, right? The expectations 15 years ago, and I think this is probably true for most coaches across college football, because we've seen, I mean, think about it. 15 years ago, a coach at a Power 4 school making somewhere between $3 and $6 million was kind of the tippy top of the range.
Yeah.
And it's almost doubled in the last 15 years. Look at it. Kurt Signetti just got a $11.5 million, and he's never even won a conference championship.
No,
at Indiana.
He's only been there for like 4 seconds.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. And to who was it? To JB's point, he says, what was James Franklin's record against top 25 teams? 17-26. That comes from Cole. That was over the course of his long tenure, and that's not good enough. That's not good enough once you've already shown that you can do it. I'm not saying that what he achieved was where he wanted to be or where the program wanted to be. But I am saying that he won 35 games over the last 3 years. There was an awful lot of winning. So Penn State fans judged James Franklin off of a very small handful of games, and I get the frustration.
Yeah.
I understand the frustration. You're paying him. What was he making? Do you know off the top of your head?
No, not exactly.
Probably making close to $9.5 million.
A lot.
You're getting paid to beat Ohio State and to beat Oregon and win playoff games. But then again, we talked about it last year. They made it into the playoff and they won a playoff game and no one gave them any credit for it. Like, it didn't matter. It did not matter that they beat, who was it, SMU?
Yeah, I think so.
In the playoff. Like, people looked at it like, that's chump change. You're supposed to beat SMU. They stink. They just got here. It's still a playoff win. And if we've gotten to the point, and maybe this circles back to Nick Saban's point, if we've gotten all the way around to the point, we've gone so far that we've come full circle, that getting into the playoff game, winning a playoff game, and winning 35 games over 3 years is grounds to be fired after being in the top 5 this season, then we've kind of jumped the shark. He's saying we've gone just a little bit too far.
So in case you just tuned in, that audio one more time, plus what James Franklin said went down on that Sunday after the loss, and then how he responds with winning a championship somewhere else. Here's what Saban said.
It's not like up to you to decide what's fair or unfair when Reese answered that question. I'm going to answer it. It's unfair as hell for you to go to the Rose Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, get in the Final Four, come out being ranked number 1 this year, an expectation that you created by what you accomplished at Penn State. And for those people not to show enough appreciation for that and gratitude for all the hard work that you did, I'm saying it's unfair.
I'm saying it's unfair. Now, Diesel, did you hear what went down? Did you hear how the Sunday went with James Franklin being fired?
No,
this is fascinating. Here's James Franklin on College Game Day Saturday.
Find out the news that Penn State wanted to move on and part ways with you.
Yeah, well, we were a practice Sunday team, Coach, and we have a team meeting at 1:45. About 1:30, the AD walked in and said, "We're going to make a change. I'm sorry." Was in shock, obviously. Really took the next 15 minutes to let my kids know so they wouldn't find out on the internet, and then walked down and had a super emotional meeting with the team to tell them I was leaving. That was it. It was that quick. Obviously, pretty much in shock as that was going on.
I just want to know, like, obviously you're emotional. Obviously you want your family, kids, whatever, to know first. And it was cool to see his daughter at game day with him on Saturday. It was really cool that he was there. Just to be quite frank, right? But I would like to experience being fired, having to go talk to the team that I coach, but know in the back of my mind, Diesel, I just got $40 million. I'm going to go tell this team that I'm leaving, but I just got $40 million. I'm going to cry for 15 seconds, but after that, I'm going to buy a new truck, right?
It's as if James Franklin doesn't have
he couldn't
5-car
afford it.
garage
He couldn't afford it.
filled with new trucks. Look, none of us listening, maybe none of us. I don't know. I don't know how many Fortune 500 company CEOs listen to our show. I hope lots.
Yeah, 6, I think.
I don't know how many people listening to this show can even fathom what it's like to be playing on that financial field. But this is still the tippy top of a competitive profession.
Sure.
And Penn State is, without a doubt, a cream of the crop kind of job. You think about all the elite jobs across college football, there might be 15, 20 of them, and this is one of them. And you pour everything you have into making this team successful. And it just doesn't work out. It doesn't go your way. The ball bounces funny and you got screwed, and all of a sudden you're fired. It still hurts.
It does.
It's got to hurt for them. Like, any of us get fired, we're probably like, oh, crap, where's our next paycheck coming
That's right.
from? How are we going to make rent or mortgage the next month? James doesn't have to think about that.
Yeah.
And the truth is, James has got a golden parachute because he's got a $40 million buyout, and his name is James Franklin, and he's going to get hired somewhere like that.
Probably anywhere.
But still, it's not like they're robots that are just out there saying, hey, player number 12, you do this. It's not ones and zeros.
Now, James Franklin did talk about the job not being finished. Here was that audio. Oh, let me try again. James Franklin, job not finished.
Essentially 6 games ago, we were fighting for a chance to be in the national championship, a 2-minute drive away. So that's the thing. I really can't answer that, Kirk. 12 years, a ton of good moments, a bunch of big wins, but decisions were made. And I'm not involved in those decisions. I'm very, very grateful for the time I had, and most importantly, for the relationships I was able to build. I thought we were going to win a national championship there. We were close. That goal hasn't changed. We're just going to go win a national championship somewhere else now.
Oh, you hear that, Diesel?
Oh,
We're just going to go
that?
win a national championship at South Carolina. I mean, at somewhere else now. Is that what he said? Huh?
Would South Carolina fans take him tomorrow?
Are you tomorrow? They
Tomorrow.
would go get the guy and lift him up on like a 10-story riser and carry him all the way to Columbia with golden sheets and, you know, the palm branches. They'd welcome him tomorrow. Sorry, Beamer, but they would,
Well,
right?
Shane can stay on as the special teams coach, but that's about it.
Yeah. So we still have Beamer ball.
We got Kane going back and forth about what it must be like to get fired and handed a $40 million check. Kane says, I'd love to get paid an extreme amount of money to leave my job. JB says, me too. I'd take that money and run. I always bring it back to this. James Franklin has worked his entire life. And how old is James Franklin? 55, 60 years old-ish?
Ish.
He's worked 55 years, probably 40 years or 35 years as a coach to get to the pinnacle of his profession.
Yeah. And
then 3 losses in a row this season after being in the top 5, being in the playoff last year. It's pulled out from under you. Now, I say it's going to be easy for him to go get another job.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, but what if the conditions at his next job or his next job don't really allow him to get back to that level of like having that brass ring just right there? Like his fingertips were touching that brass ring. They were on it. But we say, I've said, go take the Virginia Tech job. It fits your personality. It fits the region that you're used to working in. And Virginia Tech is ripe for the come up. Well, they might not have all the same support. They might not have all the same finances. They don't have that same synergy in the athletic department. And it's
not the same.
Doesn't work.
Yeah.
So you get this close to the tippy top of your profession.
Yeah.
To have it yanked down from under you.
Still tough.
And again, it's nice to walk away with a $40 million check.
Sure.
But when your life's essence is to get to that point and you're right there and you lose it, that hurts.
It does. Again, $40 million makes it a little bit easier, but I do agree with you. It still does hurt.
Oh, God. Now JB says, if Beamer is gone, bring on Gruden to Columbia.
Ha!
Ooh, God. What is it with John Gruden? Like, everybody thinks they're going to get him. Nobody does. It's fascinating. It's a fascinating conversation. When we come back, Cole, let's do this. Let's make a little change. We got our player of the week, Aiden Gibson of Woodruff, coming up next. Well, you just heard it playing on the station and on the show. Aiden Gibson's player card, if you want to call it that, for his performance last Friday night against Mountain View Prep. An absolute monster on the field. And to talk about that performance, he joins us on the show. Aiden Gibson, 299 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 reception for 50 yards. Aiden, was it an otherworldly, out-of-body experience to just go off to that degree?
Man, it's really, I just expect it from myself and my team expect it from me, man. I work really hard. Me and my offensive line, they block their butts off for me, man. I just can't thank them for just, how hard they work in practice, outside of practice. And my coach just trusted me to be a playmaker and make the plays for the team, man. And I'm truly blessed for it, man. It's just what I do, and they expect this from us all the time, man.
Aiden, is Cole here. Appreciate you hopping on with us, man. You're well-spoken as well, so congratulations on the season you've had. Love having you on the show today with us. Look, that was a big game Friday night. Woodruff Mountain View Prep was the game of the week for most outlets, and when you talk about y'all's performance as a team that you just mentioned, it looked as if there was something different about Friday night's game. Would you say you and your team, having known how that game went a year ago and a close defeat for the Woodruff Wolverines, was there an extra chip on y'all's shoulder Friday night at home hosting MVP?
Oh, most definitely, man. We had a chip on our shoulder all week, but our coaches also told us just not to be a hero on the field. We talked about all week just doing our job. It's a big game for everybody, big game for us. And we just went out. We worked really hard all week, and just outside of that, we worked in the classroom and everything like that. And our coaches told us just to do our job, and that's what we did, man.
Aiden, your Woodruff Wolverines have probably the most consistent offense in high school in the area. I'm looking at the point totals you guys have put up: 49-49, 52-48, 50-46. Talk about just the consistency that you deal with in practice on a daily basis, the consistency that you get from your coaching staff, the message that breeds this kind of consistency on the field.
Just the work effort from just defense giving us looks every day. We have one of the best boxes in South Carolina, one of the best defenses in South Carolina. That's going to help us get better on Friday night, man. And just us, our coaches, Coach Sloan, Coach Lewis, everybody just showing us the ropes and things that we need to do, and just to do our job and never be a hero on Friday nights or even in practice. We work on just the little things and the details of everything, and that's something that we're very big on over here. It's just the little things and the details and the things that we do, because that's going to help us in the long run. And that's just something that we're very big on, just knowing that everything ain't about the big plays or nothing like that. It's just about doing your job and doing the little things.
We're talking to the Fan Upstate Player of the Week, Aiden Gibson of Woodruff High School. Woodruff 7-1 on the season. How do you keep that focused mentality from last week's win, Aiden, having that big 49-28 win over Mountain View Prep, not allowing yourself, not allowing the team to have a little bit of a letdown, a hangover type game this Friday against Chapman?
It's just it's another big game for us, man. Every game is a big game, man. It's leading to us to the other big games that we're gonna have, and we just look at it like it's another big game, like just like their MVP. We're gonna treat them the same way, and we're gonna come out and we're gonna compete, and that's just what we're built of around here, and that's just what we're gonna keep on doing, and just knowing that our work ethic is gonna get us everywhere that we need to be, and just fix the little things. Like on offense, we could have scored a lot more against MVP, and there's some things that they ticked us about, and knowing that we have to get better at, knowing every Friday it's another big game for us, and defense, they just give us reps and things that we need to do. So,
Aiden, one of the intangibles that you hear pundits on TV and scouts talk about, you hear them talk about vision. What does vision actually mean to you when you're on the field? What all goes into a running back like you who ran for 299 this past Friday? What does it mean to you to have good vision?
Good vision means a lot, man. And every single play that we run, running the ball offensively, there's one way and there's always another way. So if one way gets boned up, there's always another way that you could go. Even if it means getting 5 yards, not every single run is a 60-yard touchdown or a 60-yard gain or anything like that. It's about the little things. And just your footwork overall, just keeping your eyes up at the mess, pressing the gaps, making people bite in, to make a big cut another way or anything like that. And just the defense for me on practice, they just help me knowing that if that's blown up, then I have another way. And my running back coach, Coach Settle, he helps me with everything, knowing the schemes or anything like that. And I just think that's something big that I'm very big on, this vision, man, because vision can lead you in another direction if one way's blown up or if it's not.
Aiden, last question for you. We know you got practice here in just a couple of minutes. Tell Coach Sloan, by the way, thanks for allowing us to grab you for a few minutes. What are your plans after high school and a perfect scenario? Obviously, you're just a junior, right?
Yes, sir.
So you still have one more year of high school. In a perfect scenario, where does Aiden Gibson want to end up after his playing days at Woodruff?
Man, I want to end up in college, man. I want to go play for the big screen. I'm not too big on college as of right now because I'm just a junior. I'm first focusing with my guys right now. We're chasing something big that hasn't been done here in a while. And I do want to go play in college. And that's something that I'm looking forward to. And I just think that's going to lead me to another thing in life, and just the work ethic here, that's going to lead me to a better place in college and everything like that. And I'm truly blessed for it.
Well, Aiden, congratulations on your big game Friday night. Congratulations for being the Fan Upstate High School Player of the Week, and go do it again.
Thanks.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Aiden Gibson, man, fantastic player. And Diesel, man, we don't get a lot of talkers that are as smooth talking as Aiden on the radio when we do these Fan Upstate Player of the Weeks, just to be quite frank. They're high school players. They're not media trained. Aiden was fantastic.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
That is a young man, Cole, that will open up tremendous additional opportunities in his life.
Yeah.
Just for his ability to perform well in the interview room, right?
That's awesome.
A lot of coaches are going to come talk to him, and there's going to be a lot of coaches who are going to be more impressed with him because of the way he can hold himself and carry a conversation. So
he's big time. He's big time. I'll tell you that, man.
Yeah.
If you're in the high school football world, you know just how many people talk about him, Diesel, on a weekly basis, a yearly basis. He still has one more year. He's going to be playing football on Saturdays, and I can't wait to see what happens. And to his point, they've got something special going on at Woodruff this year. It's been a really good season for them, and don't expect to see, or don't be surprised if you see Woodruff make a deep playoff run in 2025.
Speaking of stellar conversationalists, Cole, when I heard this audio, and this is pretty new, I knew that first thing I had to get your reaction to it. I don't know if you've heard this.
Okay.
Stephen A. Smith went on the 7 p.m. in Brooklyn podcast. That would be Carmelo Anthony's podcast. And he laid bare this entire beef that he's had with LeBron James for the last couple of years. And he doesn't paint LeBron James in the rosiest of pictures. Not that you would expect him to, because obviously, even the title of the content, the title of the audio piece was Stephen A. Smith says, "I don't like that dude." I'll play it in chunks because it's about 3 minutes long. We'll kind of go piece by piece and react to it. Now, before we get started, I know you love LeBron James. What's your feeling on Stephen A. Smith?
Without LeBron being in the conversation, I like Stephen A. Smith a lot.
So you like both of them. You're probably fairly neutral, at least positive about both of them.
Yeah,
okay.
I am.
So here we go. Stephen A. Smith, there's a couple little cut-ins from some of the other guys that were on the podcast.
Let me get to LeBron. I don't like his not a little bit. You do not understand the lengths this man would go to. This dates back more than a decade. I believe he's one way publicly, he's another way privately. He might not be interviewed and he might not be quoted, but the things he says and the things he has said to people, it's gotten back to me. The things that he's tried to do, if it were up to him, I wouldn't be where I am today. It's some low. The day that he rolled up on me courtside, it was the day my contract was announced, that I had stayed with ESPN. Go back and look at the camera angles. I arrived there in the first quarter. He rolled up on me in the third quarter. This is 2025. We got technology everywhere. TNT is a nationally televised game. How is it we got one angle and the only angle you see was of him and his face, but you see the back of my peanut head?
Peanut head.
So we'll stop there. We'll continue there in a second. So Stephen A. doesn't like LeBron. He is claiming that LeBron is two-faced and that he behaves in the most positive way he possibly can in front of the camera, but behind the camera, maybe he's trying to get Stephen A.'s job. Maybe he's trying to take him down a peg or two.
I've always said when it comes to not only LeBron but sports, this is what I think. This is what I think causes people not to watch certain sports or follow certain players or have a fandom of this sport or this player, etc. I've always, with LeBron James, said publicly, Diesel, that I love LeBron James, the player. I have never once said I love LeBron James, the person, what he stands for, his politics, yada, yada, yada. I think, here's where I think it's important to understand what I'm saying here. I think as sports fans, it's okay for us to like a player or love a player, even if we disagree with their politics or what they do off the court, whatever. I don't agree. If me and LeBron sat down today, we'd probably agree on zero when it comes to politics or lifestyle or, anything. However, I love LeBron James, the player. And I've tried to always separate that. And I do recognize that a lot of people, Diesel, can't do it. And I get it. And for whatever reason, some can, some can't.
Yeah.
I think it's just personal preference.
There's an old saying, you have to be able to separate the art from the artist.
Yeah.
You don't have to love everything the artist did. And to your point about LeBron, there's a lot to like about him, from his philanthropy to the amount of money that he's given back to his hometown.
100%.
The way that he's always been a family man, that
he's not out breaking the law.
He's not out breaking hearts. He's not out, fathering 10 children all over the country, and he doesn't have a shorty in every city that they go play in. So there's a lot to like about the man. Personally, it's not all, you can't base somebody's entire personality and whether or not you like them based on their politics. And there's a lot to like about LeBron. But Stephen A. Smith, he's alluding to the fact that he believes this whole camera angle of them yelling at each other was orchestrated, that it was set up by LeBron to look a certain way, and that for whatever reason, there was only that one camera angle when there should have been 5 camera angles.
And I remember this happened.
There might have been more cameras in the room, but they weren't all looking at you, Stephen A., or they weren't all looking at LeBron in that moment. So let's continue here. More audio from Stephen A. Smith.
I know this, because I know a thing or two about camera angles. I determine them half the time.
Yep.
Do this angle, do this angle, do that angle. This is my business.
I ask you straight up, do you think you felt set up in that moment?
Damn right. Damn right I did.
You thought he had somebody out there too?
Damn right that did. Damn right. That's how I feel.
Okay.
But no big deal. No problem. Because I go on the air the next day and I'm like, that's a dad reacting to his son. Happens on a Thursday. That's a Friday. That's Saturday.
Remember, this all came down because Stephen A. was bagging on Bronny. And how he shouldn't be in the NBA, and bagging on the situation that even got him to the Lakers in the first place and got him in the starting lineup for the Lakers.
Richard Jefferson is doing the game in Boston. He's still mic'd. He's working for ESPN. And we see LeBron say to him, yo, man, when he said, as a father, I had it. So I'm thinking, oh, that's not about Bronny. That's about you. Okay, let's talk about you as a father from this perspective. Oh, he ends up getting drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers. Congratulations. No problem. Oh, he ends up being there opening night. That father-son moment with Ken Griffey and Jr. and Sr. in attendance. I was there at the game, standing up, clapping. No problem. It became a problem when this brother was in the G League, and then the next day, J.J. Redick decides to bring him in the first quarter and ask him to guard Tyrese Maxey. If you could literally feel or see somebody drooling at the mouth, give me the ball. That was Tyrese Maxey. It was a nightmare.
I think it's become really personal between them two.
Yeah.
And anytime, what you see this in radio, television, anything, Diesel, anytime something becomes personal, it usually doesn't end well. It reminds me a lot of Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless on their show. Was it on FS1 or Fox, whatever it was? It very similar to me. Anytime something ever becomes personal, it usually ends in separation.
You have to have two people who are incredibly savvy, who understand that we can appear to be at odds with one another to be more entertaining to the audience, but none of that factors into our personal relationship.
Sure.
Like you and I, we get trained in media and in radio all the time. Controversy sells. You and each other differing in opinions makes for more compelling radio.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you want to lie. Doesn't mean you want to argue something you don't believe in, but you find ways to differ from one another, and it makes it more interesting. But as soon as that mic comes off, even if you and I are yelling at each other over a segment, as soon as that mic turns off, we're laughing and saying, "Oh my God, that was great radio. That was phenomenal." The audience was eating that up.
It's true. And again, I don't think everybody can do that. I don't think everybody can allow it to, I hear it all the time on morning shows, ESPN or other platforms or whatever it may be, sports wise, that I listen to. And part of the reason I watch Stephen A. Smith a good bit is because I do like debate. And his show is a debate show. And I love the NFL, love pro sports, and a lot of it's pro sports. And going back to what you asked me, I do like Stephen A. Smith because he's a good to me, he's good at what he does. He's an entertainer. He's on every single other show in America, it seems like. I know a lot of people don't like him, and that's fine, but there's a reason that he's been the number one rated show on ESPN for over a decade now. Mm-hmm. So I think, to your point, you have to understand the fact of the matter of, yes, this does create great conversation. It's great that Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James were almost chest to chest a year ago. But at the same time, you have to be able to, understand that if it gets personal, it's probably going to get ugly. And it has gotten ugly.
With Stephen A., it's more like nose to belly button.
That's true.
They're very different heights.
Yeah.
Now, I tend to agree with Stephen A. more often than not. He's an intelligent guy, and he can present information in a way to make me agree with him, even if I probably wouldn't have. My biggest issue with Stephen A. is he does bully his guests, and he bullies his co-hosts in the sense that he gets really loud and he talks over them and never lets them finish and kind of shuts them down early instead of letting them finish their point. And that, to me, he does it really, really well, where somebody like Kendrick Perkins doesn't. And Kendrick Perkins just gets loud and yells over people, and he wants everybody to stop talking because he's the loudest person in the room. I'm going to finish this. There's about a minute left in this.
And I'm like, you can't do that to him. But you also can't do that to us. We're the media. Now you asking us not to cover the game. The last straw was not him rolling up on me on courtside. If you sat up there and said, yo, LeBron pissed off, he need to talk to you man to man, and I was in New York, what would I do? I'd be on the next plane to LA. And then you gonna turn around and come on ESPN with Pat McAfee? You gonna come on my channel on a show that comes on after me just to dog me? Nah. And what you dogging me about? Be a man. Yo, I don't like him either. Cool. Nah, I have to protect my family. That's the narrative you playing? Yo, bro, when I tell y'all, you can't measure the level of how pissed off I have been over that. There is no level of disrespect that has ever been accorded to me in my life more so than what he did.
I think I sided with Stephen A. on that. I subscribe to the philosophy. If you got a problem with somebody, hash it out, figure out what it is, and get over it.
That would have been must-see TV. We would still be talking about LeBron calling in. Look, probably the one of the best segments I've ever been involved with was when I posted some audio and somebody who was attached to it, not attached to it, but covered that team, got really upset, fired off at it, and then immediately called into our show to talk to us about it.
Sure.
And I was like, you know what? I'm still mad at you for reacting the way that you did, being a fellow media member, but I have a lot of respect for you that you actually called into the show to talk about it right then.
Yeah.
Instead of doing this thing where, well, I'm going to post a column about it tomorrow, and then we have to react to that the next day, and then they react to our reaction the next day after that. And it was fantastic to have this guest on.
Speaking of fantastic, Diesel, so many fantastic headlines. A lot has happened in the last 24 hours, and we have a segment where we get to those headlines. Our Daily Wires next. Well, if you're in the upstate, too bad you're not in Columbia, where a Fire Shula protest has begun on campus, and this is how it sounds. Barstool Gamecocks Diesel tweets that out, and it's funny. You gotta laugh at it.
Oh,
you
man.
got to.
Are they going around in a circle? Are they walking down the street kind of like a parade?
It looks like it has mobilized. So it was just, I believe, them kind of standing and standing still, but it has mobilized. So here we go. That's funny stuff. Really funny stuff. That stuff just makes you laugh. That's college football at its best. It really is. Diesel, this is a segment where we look at all the top sports headlines, and it's our Daily Wires. In case you missed it, Dabo Swinney yesterday announced that leading receiver on Clemson's team, Bryant Wesco Jr., will miss the remainder of the season. He sustained a very serious back injury. We had that yesterday, but just in case you missed it, really awful stuff for Bryant Wesco, a true talent.
And it seems like that kind of issue, like it could happen to any team at any time, right? But it seems like those are the kind of incidents that happen when the season's already going downhill.
Yeah.
And it just snowballs and makes things worse.
It really does. When it rains, it pours in Clemson. An Ohio Common Pleas judge granted a temporary restraining order that would allow high school athletes to enter into deals that profit off of their name, image, and likeness. So continuing to see the trickle down, right?
Yep. It's making its way into a lot of states. A lot of states have this.
Texas Tech AD Kirby Hockett is now asking the 3-decade-long tradition of fans tossing tortillas into the air for opening kickoff to stop. He says, "We know that as Red Raiders, no one tells us what to do. We make our own decisions." That's funny. But this situation is on me. I leaned into throwing tortillas at the beginning of the football season. Now I must ask everyone to stop. Moving forward, fans caught throwing tortillas will have their ticket privileges for all sports suspended for the remainder of the year.
They've been doing this for years, right? But they used to just toss them up in the air. And then they started tossing them out on the field.
Let's go.
Then it became the thing you do, and then it got out of hand.
That is so funny. That is freaking hilarious. Again, you got to love college football, right?
It's just a waste of good food.
I know. I love tortillas.
Think how many burritos we could have all eaten.
By the way, corn or flour?
Flour for me.
Thank you. I'm glad we can agree on that. We didn't have to disagree in that one.
I like corn hard shell tacos.
Yeah,
but flour soft shell.
Yeah, it's got to be flour. 2027 four-star quarterback Trent Seaborn, the ESPN number 7 pocket passer for the 2027 cycle, has committed to Alabama. He chose the tide over the Miami Hurricanes, Oregon Ducks, and the South Carolina Gamecocks. How about that?
At least South Carolina was in on them.
Yeah, they were in the party. They just didn't go home with a girl.
That close.
Defensive end Brandon Graham has decided to come out of retirement and rejoin the Philadelphia Eagles. Graham, who was the youngest tenured player in franchise history, has agreed, longest tenured player, I think I said that wrong, has agreed to a 1-year deal to suit up for the 16th season with Philly.
Well, they were really thin at defensive end. They needed him bad.
Need him so bad, you got to come out of retirement. Buccaneers coach Todd Bowles confirmed that Mike Evans suffered a concussion and a broken collarbone during last night's loss to the Lions. It'll sideline him for most of the rest of the season. And this is astronomically devastating for Tampa Bay.
Talking about an MVP without him, though.
I know, but MVP candidate Baker Mayfield, the division we thought was the Buccaneers, and don't look now because of that loss last night. The Carolina Panthers are one game behind them in the division.
Wow.
They only have a one game worse record. So, I mean, I'm telling you, man, I think that'll come back down the line. I think that'll come back to hurt them.
You're telling me there's a chance.
As of today, there is. As of today. Former All-Pro Buccaneers running back Doug Martin died early Saturday morning after an incident at a residence in Oakland, California, per police report. While struggling while responding officers were attempting to detain him, a brief struggle occurred. After being taken into custody, Martin became unresponsive. Paramedics responded, provided medical aid, transported him to a local hospital where he later died. Horrible news there. when you talk about Buccaneers running back Doug Martin.
Well, it seems as if he was dealing with maybe some mental health issues of his own because his parents were trying to call local authorities and say, hey, I think your son's not doing so well. Go take care of him. And then he wound up 2 houses down the road and was in the house. So it was not a criminal breaking and entering. It might have been just a confused person without their medication in the wrong house at the wrong time.
Yeah, medication's good. It's good for certain situations. The Blue Jays defeated the Mariners last night in the ALCS, and boy, it was tough for the Mariners. That locker room, hearing those post-game interviews, that was brutal. The Blue Jays designated hitter George Springer cranked a 3-run home run in the bottom of the 7th. The Dodgers now open as minus 210 favorites to win the World Series. The Blue Jays opened at plus 75, which means you have to bet 210 to win 100 on the Dodgers victory, and betting 100 on the Blue Jays would profit 175. So we'll see, but I believe that line's probably right. I think the Dodgers
should. I put that
should
note there for myself because I don't really know how to bet lines like that. So
last night in the NFL, Diesel, 2 games. Lions again defeated the Buccaneers 24-9. Seahawks defeated the Texans, who just looked like a shell of what they were last year, 27-19. Let's see. Game 1 will be in Toronto. Going back to the MLB conversation, Game 1 of the World Series is in Toronto Friday at 8 p.m. Carolina Hurricanes fell for the first time in the regular season in a 4-1 loss to Las Vegas. The Hurricanes are 5-1 on the season. How about golf legend Jack Nicklaus, who won a $50 million defamation lawsuit against Nicklaus Companies, the firm he helped build, after a Palm Beach County jury found that false claims were spread about him negotiating a $750 million deal with a Saudi-backed Live Golf League. That's crazy to hear, but
yeah,
welcome to the world of Live and Saudi and defamation, right? And last one, Diesel, the NBA regular season is back tonight. 2 regular season games just trickling their way in. Rockets Thunder 7:30, Warriors and a LeBron-less Lakers at 11 or at 10 rather. Both games on NBC and Peacock. Charlotte will open its season tomorrow with a 7 p.m. home game against the Brooklyn Nets, where right now the Hornets are favored to win the basketball game. See how many times you can find that this season where the Hornets are favored to win a basketball game, right?
You know, some of the early conversation, and I don't listen to a lot of NBA talk, but some of the early conversation is that the Hornets have a chance to be pretty decent this year.
Let me tell you something. I'll say this. I don't really have an NBA team. I've always liked LeBron. My NBA fandom has started to trickle down because of LeBron's, he's about to retire. We all see it coming. I would love nothing more than the Hornets to get good. I would love to be able to drive up an hour up the road during the week or on the weekend and watch NBA. I would love it.
So what has to come first, your fandom or their success?
Their success.
They have to get
that's right.
decent, at
They have
least
to buy
decent
me
first.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't want to go up there and watch a bad team.
That's fair.
I love NBA basketball, and I would love for the Hornets to be good. I drove to the Eastern Conference Finals 5 years ago when Milwaukee played Trae Young in the Hawks. Yeah, in the Eastern Conference Finals, Game 3. I was there. I love it, but I'm not going to go watch a terrible Hornets team.
So where's Dewey when we need him calling you a fair weather meteorologist?
Oh, yeah, it's true. It's true. Thanks, Dewey. We didn't hear from Dewey yesterday?
No, yeah, we did. Yeah, he did.
Did he call?
He didn't call in, but he did message in on the stream.
Okay, gotcha.
So we did hear
He's
from
alive.
Dewey.
Okay.
At least we think it's Dewey. Who honestly knows? When we come back, it is time to start thinking about our early leans for the Upset Picks Challenge that'll open tomorrow at 4:00. The lines will get locked in at 3, and you can start sending in your picks as of 4:00 tomorrow. I'm going to start giving you a list of games that you shouldn't take because apparently I'm terrible at the Upset Picks Challenge. Of these, I guarantee one of them will hit, and I guarantee my wife will somehow pick that one. Early leans for the Upset Picks Challenge next. Obviously, Tolos, you got to wait until 4:00 tomorrow to get in your upset picks. But what are your early leans? Who are you liking so far in the upset picks challenge as you're starting to gather your data on who you might pick for this week? 844-326-3663. Keith in TR says his early lean is South Carolina over Alabama. Says either we win and I hit big in the challenge, or we lose and Shula finally gets fired.
Ooh.
Win-win scenario.
You know, it's interesting. I looked at that one, and here's the only issue I have. My optimism tank, Diesel, you know, if you go to the gas pump and you see all the trucks, you know, back during the hurricane, right? The tanks were running low, and you had to kind of be picky and choosy of which gas stations you went to. My optimism tank has completely run dry on the Gamecocks in 2025. And I have a buddy of mine who makes fun of me every day because at the beginning of the season, I was one that on this show and off the air said that I think South Carolina can have a big season. Obviously, it didn't pan out that way. So disappointment for me every week watching South Carolina, believing that they could have once been good. I can't take that game because when I looked at my optimism tank, it is on 0.
Do you know off the top of your head what the spread is in that game?
11.5.
Ooh, I'm surprised it's that low.
11.5.
Honestly, I thought it'd be more.
Yeah,
I thought it'd be more.
Yeah, if I had to bet it right now, I'd probably take Alabama in the 11.5.
Yeah.
Bama's playing the best they've played in 2.5 years, maybe 3 years.
And you're going down there to that
I'm
game.
going.
You're going to
Yeah.
go cover that game.
I'm going. I don't know, and I think we're going to talk about this at 5:00 when we have the Shane Beamer audio. I don't know if Shula gets fired. I think if he hadn't by now, they're probably not going to. But I do think it's kind of fun to also watch the fireworks, right?
I mean, if you're telling me that South Carolina loses that game big, fails to score more than 10 points, let's say 10 points, and they can't, and I'm not talking about a pick six, or I'm not talking about, a special team score, but if the offense fails to score more than 10 and Alabama beats them like 30-10, you're telling me that Shula's going to keep his job?
He shouldn't, but I don't know that. My whole thing is with Beamer, I don't know if he hadn't already on the 21st day of October. I don't know what. Here's
Shula's only been there for 7 weeks.
Yeah,
8 weeks.
But to my point, when I sat and watched South Carolina versus who was it they beat? When I was in Charlotte, and it was a Saturday night, and we all watched it. It was the Kentucky game, right? It was the Kentucky game where I'm pulling up the schedule. I'm making a point of this. South Carolina beat Kentucky 35-13. I watched that game on the 27th of September, and the score looked big. But I knew that night watching that game that South Carolina's offense had major problems, and this was after Virginia Tech. The offense only scored a couple of touchdowns that night. It was the defense that scored 2 touchdowns. We saw the special teams. So, like going back to what you asked, if they get steamrolled, which T-Swizzle says that Bama's going to score 50 on Saturday. If they get steamrolled, yeah, I mean, Shula deserves to get fired, but ultimately we knew that Carolina going into this 5-game stretch, it was going to be brutal, and now the train's off the tracks. I don't know what firing Shula now does for the rest of the season. I think you at this point, I believe you are what you are. That you can fire Shula, Mike Furry, Beamer. You are what you are to me at this point.
Well, I'm curious here. If you do move on from Shula, who do you elevate into his role?
Probably Furry.
Yeah, you're not going to bring in the passing game coordinator and wide receivers coach?
Yeah, probably.
You know more about him than I do.
Yeah.
I'm just asking.
His time, and I know it's Division II college football, but he played a lot of NFL football. He knows offense. And again, I know Division II is not the same as Division I. He coached and was uber successful at the Division II level. I think he knows offense. I think he knows scheme. So, like, if you did fire Shula, I think Furry would be the guy to promote because, and this is no disrespect to Mike Furry. He's a good friend of mine. I love the guy. I just don't think your options are great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think they have a ton of great options when it comes to who they would promote from within. If it were me, because the Diesel, the season's already lost. Like, what You know what I mean? It's not really that
Sure.
big of a decision on who to promote if it happens. You just let Mike Furry call plays, and Mike Furry,
It can't get any worse,
no,
though.
that's what I'm saying. It
it
is
can't
what
get
it
any
is.
worse.
You are what you are now.
Well, it goes back to the question that I asked Shane about the last possession going into halftime. Why throw across the middle short 3 times when you know that's exactly what Oklahoma wants you to do to burn some clock? Well, they were just really good at defending the sideline. They never once tried to go to the sideline. And to me, that says that was the play call, was to try to go across the middle and hope that, you throw the ball for an 8-yard gain and hope that receiver gets another 5 yards and you could stop the clock that way. I just thought that was a massive, massive failure on Mike Shula's part. And now that I'm looking at the actual full coaching staff directory, now I'm wondering who was throwing out all those choice words in the coach's box next to us. There was a coach who was letting the 4-letter word fly.
Always. Yeah.
The one that we thought Rick and Greer said on our show yesterday.
Yeah.
And I counted at least half a dozen. And I'm thinking now maybe it was the defensive line coach, Travian Robertson. I don't know.
Skinny guy?
Well, you couldn't tell because the glass is frosted. It would have had to have been a coach that sits up in the booth. I don't know who's on the field and who's in the booth. I thought maybe it was the defensive coordinator, Clayton White. But then I was told no, Clayton
on the field
operates down on the field, so that it wasn't Clayton. But it was all on defense when these 4-letter words were flying. So Cole, I'm going to give you my list, and you see if any of these games might pique your interest of who you might take. Again, early picks, upset picks, early leans for tomorrow.
And by the way, it's a miracle we haven't had anybody submit their upset picking correctly.
It hasn't happened yet. Number one, I'm looking at Cole, and I'm trying to pick those games that are going to help me get back in this thing because I'm struggling right now. I'm looking at South Alabama at Georgia State plus 6.5. South Alabama is
bad.
They're bad. They're bad, but they're losing their games close. They're not getting blown out in games. They just have a terrible defense. These are two very similar teams. I would say home field advantage Georgia State, but I mean, come on. If you've ever been to a game at Georgia State or watched a game at Georgia State on TV, there is no home field advantage there.
There's not.
There's no atmosphere.
No, South Alabama's favored in that one, and that's a Thursday night game. Both teams, by the way, 1-6. So I've got 3, and that was one of my 3 when I looked earlier today. The reason I kind of put it down as an early lean is it's 6.5, which is doable. For me, where I am now, 6.5 would be really big. And both teams are 1-6.
Yeah.
They're both looking for their first conference game, Diesel. So I think when you have 2 bad teams, anything's possible. Georgia State could get blown out, or Georgia State could win by 14. You just don't know. But no, I like this one. I have it down as one of my 3.
I'm looking also, Cole, and you're going to have to help me out and figure out what I'm missing here.
I know.
Cal plus 4.5 at Virginia Tech. Cal is 5-2 football team.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech's 2-5. Why are the Hokies favored by more than a field goal at home against a 5-win Cal team?
Well, that was one of the ones I screenshotted, Virginia Tech Cal. So you and I have 2 of the same one. I looked at that the same way you did and thought, seems like a good old Vegas trap where you would then bet on Virginia Tech because they know something we don't. But ultimately, Cal, to your points, 5-2. Virginia Tech's 2-5. You would think Cal should be favored. So right now, this is the leader in my.
Interesting.
It's only 4.5, which I don't love. 4.5. Yeah, I mean it's a hit. You move up a little bit, but you're not gaining significant ground.
That's one of those ones you hope you hit, and almost no one else does.
Yeah. You'd have to. I do like it though. That's one of my 3 so far. You and I are on the same page. We'll see if you have my third now.
My third is Texas at Mississippi State plus 6.5. What are we missing here? Mississippi State, maybe they're mad after losing to Florida.
Yeah.
Those cowbells are going to be ear piercing. It's still Arch Manning.
No,
can I convince you of that one?
I looked at it, but I don't think I'm interested in it because I still do believe Texas's defense is elite. I think they'll really subdue Mississippi State this weekend. I know Mississippi State's had a good season. They've had a really good season compared to what they are normally used to having.
Well, they're down to 4-3 now.
Yeah, after they lost last week,
Florida.
right, to Florida. And they played Florida well, right? It wasn't What that game? That was
That was a close game.
Close
it was
game,
a 2-point
right?
game.
Yeah, so I'm high on Mississippi State. I still maybe going back to my Shula and South Carolina point, I still have a little optimism left in my tank for Texas and Steve Sarkisian. I think that team's still uber talented. So I would right now lean Texas on that one.
Corn Chip texts in and says, we called Georgia State's stadium Paulson North since we turn out with some good attendance at their stadium. Corn Chip saying they're taking up residency.
How far is that from each couple hours?
Atlanta down to Corn Chip, help us out. How far is it from Atlanta down to Statesboro? That's got to be close to 2, maybe not quite 2 hours.
Is Statesboro on the bottom at the bottom of the state?
Yeah, it's basically Savannah.
Right? Oh yeah, probably maybe an hour and 45, something like that. I would imagine. I would maybe even say they have more fans there than Georgia State, right? Again, it's to your point, it's not the greatest environment.
It's farther than I thought it was. It's 3 hours and 10 minutes.
Oh, is it? Okay.
210 miles.
Wow.
How about that?
Yeah.
And it's Statesboro is a little bit northwest of Savannah. While we're doing a geography lesson here, Cole.
Good.
And the last one for you that I'm looking at Baylor plus 4.5 at Cincinnati. Baylor, those Bears can flat out score, but their defense stinks. Cincinnati 6-1 under Scott Satterfield, but their offensive production is up and down and up and down. And maybe this week it's going to be a little bit down. If that's the case, Baylor can get them.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I saw that one earlier. I'll say this: when I was looking at all of the games, FBS games this weekend, I didn't fall in love with a lot of these games. I really didn't. So I have those two that you mentioned being the Cal game and the South Alabama game. The third one that I have is Ball State, Northern Illinois on Saturday afternoon. Northern Illinois is terrible. They're 1-3 in the MAC, or 1-6, 0-3 in the MAC. They're playing Ball State. Ball State needs another weird line here. Ball State's 3-4. You would imagine the 3-4 team is ranked or favored over the 1-6 team, right? Mm-hmm. You would imagine the team that's 2-1 in the MAC's favored over the team that's 0-3. No, NIU's favored. So Ball State plus 5.5 right now is my early lean. That's where I'm going as of today. If we had to get our upset picks in, and it opens, by the way, in 24 hours, Tolos. So that's my 3. I don't hate yours, but ultimately, like I said, I didn't fall in love with any. I do want to shout out Tolo J. Butane, though. Here's a crazy one I looked at. He brought it up on the text line. He said on the Hub City Spartan Burgers text line at 844-326-3663, leaning UCLA, Indy's overrated, Nico isn't half bad, Foster was a terrible coach, heard it here first. Here's my only problem with that game, Indiana versus UCLA. Do you know the spread on that one?
I looked at it. I think it's like 27.
25.5.
Oh.
So that is a monstrous spread. Ultimately, like, if you want to get crazy, that's the game to pick. But Fernando Mendoza is just too good, isn't he?
And Kurt Cignetti is too good of a coach to let that happen.
I think so.
He wins.
He does.
You Google James Franklin, he loses big games. You Google Kurt Cignetti, he wins.
He's 7-0, or Indiana's 7-0. UCLA's, look, they're 3-4. Yeah, they've got the blonde-haired coach, and it's a sexy team right now, and they're winning. They've won 2 or 3 in a row. But I can't take 25. Now, if you somehow pulled the upset, you'd be the king of the upset picks challenge, and you would have a drastic boost to the top 10 or close to it. But right now, betting against Fernando Mendoza and Kurt Cignetti's tough.
I mean, if you didn't have any points at all and you took that one 25.5, you would jump all the way up to 29th place.
So it'd be a big swing.
A huge swing. Yeah. Can I convince you at all, Cole, to maybe look at App State plus 13.5 at Old Dominion? These are both teams that have the same record.
Yeah.
Both got absolutely punched in the mouth last week. App lost in a heartbreaker to Coastal. Old Dominion got stomped by James Madison, who I think are really, really good this year.
Has App played James Madison yet or no?
No, they have not.
Do they have any common opponents?
I'd have to pull.
So the reason I asked Diesel is I looked at that game and I thought, for a conference game, 13.5 smells fishy. It does.
People were looking at Old Dominion as possibly a an outside shot at a playoff for the G5 team.
Yeah.
Now they have struggled the last couple of weeks. They've lost 2 in a row. Let's see. Old Dominion's last 2 games, they lost 63-27 at James Madison. And they lost 48-24 at Marshall. You go back past that, they beat the crap out of Coastal. They won in a decent slugfest, 21-7 against Liberty. And then they beat Virginia Tech. Now we know Virginia Tech's not all that good.
Yeah.
As opposed to App State losing by 8 last week against Coastal, trounced Georgia State, beat Oregon State, blown out by Boise, blown out by USM. That's why I said last week I don't trust this team.
So on paper, Old Dominion's the better team.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's why they're 13 and 11 and a half points. It's a big
13
spread.
and a half.
Yeah.
The only common opponent is Coastal. And this was Coastal with a different quarterback that Old Dominion beat. Coastal brought in their backup quarterback. Turns out he's pretty good.
Where's that game at Saturday?
That game is at Old Dominion.
I'll tell you this. I do have a little interest in that.
Both are 4-3.
Yeah.
Both are 1-2 in the Sun Belt.
And it's a conference game. And I do think, like right now, if I had a bet, I'd take App in the points just because I think it'll be closer than 13 and a half. But for them to win outright, I think they'd have to have probably their best game of the year, right? Probably a near perfect game. They hadn't gotten the most out of their quarterback play this year. And are they due? Do you feel like App State's due and they've got the talent and they're just due for a big – if you feel like they're due, then I think this is the play for the upset pick.
I think
challenge.
the play there is that Old Dominion has a god-awful rush defense, and App State has a pretty good running back who could put the game on his back and run away with it.
I'm telling you, man, 13 and a half points would be huge.
Yeah.
So because it's 13 and a half, I'm mildly interested. I'm mildly interested. I don't know where I'm going yet. I'm probably going to play it more conservative.
More conservative than that?
Yeah, and go with like Ball State 4.5 or 5.5, whatever it is. I just don't know. You look at those two teams; they've both been kind of meh, mediocre. AJ Swan's good, to your point.
He's not the starter anymore.
He's not?
No, he's not. The starter is J.J. Cole, who transferred in from Iowa State.
He's got a good name.
Spelled differently.
Oh, is it?
Kohl.
Never mind. Bad name, like the store. This one's tough. This one's tough. Maybe a lot of points, maybe bad defensive play. You just look at it being a home game. That should matter, right? I mean, wouldn't you feel like if it were in Boone, then that might help a little bit? But
if it was in Boone, you might be talking about a 9.5 point spread.
Yeah.
Old Dominion is a better team. They really are. That's why it's such a big upset.
Yeah, it'd be good though. A 13.5 would be. Don't send that to your freaking wife, by the way.
She'll take
Please.
it and she'll hit.
And if you're going to send her any more spreads, send her the 1s and the 2s. You've got to quit sending her these big point spreads. This is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous that my wife doesn't even watch football and she is in 5th place.
That makes me so
5th place.
mad. That makes me. You don't know how mad that makes
I think Dave Mosley needs to watch his back, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think Dave needs to be careful, because Dave clearly knows ball. He waits until the last minute to get his picks in, by the way.
Yeah.
That's why he gathers all this information.
I might do the same thing this week because it worked for me last week. Can I get a quarterback to have an ankle injury again this week and let me make my upset pick that way?
Oh, so you're saying we need to both cheat. We need to change our strategies and wait.
It bit me, though, a couple weeks ago. Remember, I benefited from it last week.
It's true.
But with Arizona State and, it was Arizona. I think it was Arizona State, Utah.
Right.
Sam Levitt was
he
playing,
went out.
and then he said, "Oh, no, we're not playing." So, I was due.
The upset picks giveth, and the upset picks taketh away.
It does. Diesel, it's time to talk to Jack Veltri, our weekly 422 guest on Tuesdays. Let's talk Gamecocks. What did Shane Beamer have to say earlier today? We'll have that Shane Beamer audio for you, by the way, at 5 o'clock. But Jack's reaction to that and more with Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central next. Every single Tuesday at this time, we are joined live by Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central. You all know Jack and who he is now, but we've been having him on for a long, long time. We're what you call a day one with Jack Veltri. Jack, did you make it in? We're getting some rain here in the upstate. Did you make it in back to wherever you're calling from the protest in time? Were you protesting Mike Shula?
No, I was not at the protest today, guys. I am actually over at Founders Park. We've got some fall baseball going on.
Well, that's just not acceptable. I just hate to tell you.
It's a better place to be than the which did you guys see the video of that? It was like 20 people.
Hey, it's only about the thought, the effort. A for effort, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's a bunch of frat boys just having fun, right?
Hey, Jack, what was the second half of your question that Shane cut off where you said, what gives you hope, ... And then he cut you off, started talking about what he wanted to talk about. Obviously, can you, I want to give you an opportunity to get that whole question out there.
Well, for one, the initial question got cut off to begin with, where I was basically asking, hey, do you feel like, I probably could have worded it a little better, like, hey, like, do you feel like you need to make another change, more so this time with the play calling or the offensive scheme? You could take it in a lot of different directions there, but I didn't really get that full thing out. And then he brought up the infamous quote, "I made a change last week, Jack," with Lonnie Teasley. The other part of it, once he kind of answered that, I kind of just tried to get something else in. And the first thing that came to mind was, what gives you hope? And I think that was probably just going to be the extent of it. But what gives you hope that the offense is going to be able to get this thing turned around? And then he said, next question, and then he went back to it. So.
Well, Jack, ultimately, I feel like while a lot of fans are protesting, or 20 fans are protesting, and a lot of fans are upset about Mike Shula and the play calling, and rightfully so, I said to Diesel in the last segment, when I watched the Kentucky game, we watched what happened against Virginia Tech. We thought the offense might get better after the second week, and then you get to Kentucky, and you're talking about a bad Kentucky team, and your team having to be bailed out by special teams and the defense. The score was lopsided, but the offense didn't do a whole lot against Kentucky. I knew then that South Carolina had problems. When you look at kind of where this team is now, if they were to make a change, let's say they fired Mike Shula tomorrow, do you really feel like anything would be different, or do you feel like this team, they are who they are at this point?
I think it depends on who you promote, right? Because we see UCLA is the popular example where they hired Jerry Neuheisel, who a few days before had never even put on a headset before to call plays, right? And UCLA's offense has been so much more dynamic since then. So I think that case applies where, like, if you bring up a young guy who's never called plays before, I think they have a few guys. One guy that would be interesting to see is they have Davis Cutter, who's like the assistant quarterbacks coach. He's someone maybe that you would want to ideally promote if that came to fruition. But I think for South Carolina, I think you're probably sticking with Shula the rest of the way, though Shane did say multiple times now that if he feels it's necessary to make a change, he's going to go ahead and do it.
Jack, I got a chance to ask Lenoris Sellers about, the second touchdown, or the first touchdown drive, the lone touchdown drive, but the second trip inside the 5. They ultimately went for it on fourth down again, not having gotten it the first time, but they got it the second time. In your mind, what was the reasoning for making that fourth down, leave it in Lenoris Sellers' decision? Was it confidence in Lenoris, or was it, we absolutely have to get 6 points here or this game gets away from us?
I think it was just absolutely, you need to get 6 points here. And I think for South Carolina, the thing about those two drives in the red zone, Diesel, was that they ran 8 plays, right? They went for it twice on fourth down on both of those sequences, once apiece. And 6 of those plays were handoffs up the middle.
Yeah.
You didn't put the ball in Norris's hands much at all. You had him throw that one pass to Nick Harper for the touchdown, and then the other one was supposed to be a pass play, I think, but the pressure broke down immediately, and Lenoris was brought down on what was just a 2-yard game when he had to kind of scramble a little bit. There were no designed quarterback runs in there. And I think that was what is kind of missing, I think, in those situations, because why are you taking the ball out of your best player's hands? I get it. You want to run the ball on first and second down with your running backs after that 36-yard run. Okay, that's fine. But I think they needed to do something a little bit more creative rather than, hey, we're going to hand it off 3 straight times. It's one thing when you're at the 1-yard line, but when you're getting stuffed once and twice with Matthew Fuller, and then you're doing it again, you're putting yourself in a much tougher spot, even if you're at literally the 1-yard line, more like the half-foot line, and you got to get into the end zone. That makes it a lot tougher, and luckily South Carolina got the touchdown there with Sellers throwing to Harbor, but that was a much tougher sequence than I think it really needed to be.
Talking to Jack Veltri, Gamecock Central. He joins us every Tuesday at this time during football season. Jack, do you not find yourself surprised that with the pressure on Mike Shula, we haven't seen more of just circus offense in terms of him going out there on Saturdays and just throwing the kitchen sink on the field? Has that surprised you a little bit?
A little, but I think at some point, I don't know. I think we're going to get into a situation where this thing either eventually clicks or it doesn't. I mean, I don't really think there's much in between. I think at some point, you're really hoping an answer comes to where he's able to get this thing figured out. But it's also about, like, players in the field have to execute as well, right? Like, it's not – as much as the blame does probably fall on Shula's shoulders, there's more that this team needs to do. Like, the blocking's got to be better up front, for one. You also need to make better decisions if you're Lenore Sellers. Sorry if you're going to hear the music behind me in the
you're good.
background. But – there's other things like the run game hasn't been there for South Carolina. So a lot of it is ultimately on Shula. And I do think they need to get back to being a bit more creative, because I just wasn't a fan of all the handoffs up the middle and stuff, especially at the goal line.
Yeah.
Like, you have a freak of nature athlete in Lenore Sellers. Let's utilize him a little bit more. And honestly, just do something different. I mean, whatever you're doing right now is clearly not working. The sample size is big enough offensively to where you're just not getting the results you want. If it were me, I would try something completely different. Like, do what, like Dow Loggins last year. Put the ball in your best player's hands, whether it's Sellers, whether it's Nick Harbor, whether it's one of your tight ends, whoever that may be, whoever's giving you the best chance to go out there and put points on the board, the ball needs to be in their hands, in my opinion.
Talking to Jack Veltri, Gamecock Central at Jack T. Veltri is where you can find and follow him on Twitter. Earlier today, Shane broke the news that he thinks Casey Henry is out for the season. Tough blow for an already kind of banged up offensive line there. What can you tell us about his injury and how they're going to try to fill that space?
Well, it is a shoulder injury. So that happened on the first play of the Missouri game a few weeks back. And it had been a situation where he's missed all the games since then, and you hoped he would be able to make it back at some point, but he's going to be out this weekend, and like you said, he will probably be out the rest of the year for South Carolina, and that's a tough blow because Kaysen was playing really, really well, I think, early on this season, despite all of South Carolina's OL troubles. The problem for him is that he's always been banged up throughout his career, and you hate it because I'll be honest, this is probably one of the more intelligent football players I've ever gotten the chance to talk to. He knows what he's talking about, can tell you what's going on with the offense, what's going wrong, what's going right, and how they're going to try and correct it. And to not have a guy out there like that, it hurts because he's one of your better players on the offensive line. How you're filling that spot? You filled it with Tree Babalati starting the last few weeks, and I expect that to continue to be the case moving forward until proven otherwise. They're down a lot of offensive linemen right now, but the good news today is that the other 5 that were banged up, whether they were missing the game the other day or got injured during the game, they were all back out practicing today.
Jack, not to be Mr. Doom and Gloom, but what does this fan base have to cheer for? What does this team have to play for the rest of the way?
Well, you're asking the wrong person here since I'm Mr. Negative. But in all seriousness, I do think that they got to play for a bowl game, right? You gotta find a way to scratch off a win here, one of these next 3 games, in order to do that, because you got to win 3 of your next 5 games, and that's no small task. I think you can beat Coastal. I think you can beat Clemson. but you got to find a way to get a win otherwise. And, guys, I'm leaning towards Alabama on this game, obviously, but there's a part of me that after hearing Shane today and hearing the players, I don't think everything is fixable within a week, but there's part of me that sees like what's happened in the past before where South Carolina's been in these spots where nobody believes in them, everyone counts them out, and then they go out here and put up this great performance and they pull off a stunner. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I have a funny feeling that it would not be. Don't rule it out, I would say.
Jack, what was your overall take on the fact that it took all the way until I think a minute to go in the third quarter before South Carolina had a pre-snap penalty on offense? They did have a pass interference a little bit earlier in that quarter, but some of the issues that had plagued them so often over the course of the season offensively were pretty much gone throughout the majority of that Oklahoma game.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, and the good news is none of those pre-snaps were on the offensive line, which is a really good sign in the right direction that not everyone wants to talk about. Everyone wants to talk about the negatives, but how about the positive in that they only had 4 penalties in that game, and none of them were on the OL. I think that's a big positive and step in the right direction when you're limiting those mistakes. Now you just got to figure out, okay, how do we run a capable offense that can go out there and actually score points to put up on the board? So that's a much bigger problem that is a lot tougher to figure out. But at least you're cleaning up the self-inflicted stuff that has shot yourself in the foot so many times throughout the season.
Jack, let's get into Alabama. What do you see? I mean, you mentioned a little bit of optimism. I said earlier in the show, my optimism tank with South Carolina has officially hit the E, and I don't think there's any in the reserve either. What do you feel like South Carolina, Alabama on Saturday could present? I know you just shared in terms of how you could see South Carolina play better just because of, recent years. They somehow, some way do figure out a way to turn things around toward the end of the season or the latter part. What's your biggest concern, though, when you look at Saturday's game?
And don't get me wrong, I'm not optimistic about Saturday either.
Okay.
I think there's just the optics.
Yeah.
We've seen this story before. We saw it last year with Alabama, where Carolina had that awful loss to Ole Miss. Everyone said they were done, and then they go out there and lose by 2 and have the lead in the fourth quarter. So my point is I think that is possible again this weekend just because nobody's giving them a chance. And
Sure.
I'm not giving them a chance this weekend to win. I don't think anyone will pick South Carolina. That's just the reality of the situation. This Alabama team is very good.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about a team that looks completely different from the one at Florida State. I think they have overcome their road struggles from last season. They went to Missouri, won a tight game there. They went to Georgia in Athens that night and won there. So what's stopping them from going to South Carolina at Williams-Brice Stadium for a day game and winning that one? I think Alabama is going to be fine. Quarterback play has been phenomenal. Ty Simpson, I think, is your Heisman front runner right now. They got some really good weapons on the outside with Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams, and Jam Miller has been pretty good at running back. And the defense has been banged up a little bit, but I mean, that group, they had the 100-yard pick 6 the other night. I mean, this is a group that is really rounding into form. I think Kalen's got them playing well at the right time, and they've walked the tough road to get here. They've beaten a lot of ranked teams in a row, and they've been very sharp.
Jack, most of the time when an athletic director comes out and releases a vote of confidence in a head coach, it's writing on the wall, right? We know what's coming in the very near future. Mike Norvell got his. A lot of people think he's right there on that edge of getting fired. Hugh Freeze said that he would love to get a vote of confidence from his athletic director. If you woke up tomorrow morning to the news that Jeremiah Donati had released a statement of confidence in Shane Beamer and you weren't the one breaking the story, would you take that as a positive or a negative?
I don't know. I mean, a vote of confidence can go like multiple ways. Like, I don't know honestly how to answer that, Diesel. I think if he got a vote of confidence from Donati, I think it would just mean that he's good to go for next year more than anything.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's anyone's guess what happens after that, right?
Jack, we hear baseball in the background. What's the latest? Where you at? And a little fall camp starting up, right?
Yeah, man. This is the second fall baseball scrimmage of the season for the Gamecocks. They have been getting going for about a week now, but Pulmonary's kind of changed it up to where the team's scrimmaging a little later than normal. So they'll run closer to Thanksgiving. But beautiful weather day out here. It's 0-0 right now in the bottom of the second inning, and things are looking good. I think we all need some Gamecock baseball in our lives with how football's been going, and men's basketball. We got men's basketball content tonight too with Garner and Black Madness. So some other sports to kind of keep you occupied.
Yeah, I was just about to ask about that, Jack. On the basketball side of things, men's and women's, obviously the news last week, was it, that Chloe Kitts was going to be out? Just kind of your general thoughts as we're a couple of weeks away from things really getting started with basketball.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know I personally don't cover women's very closely. We have Chris Wellbaum, who does a great job with that already. So my eyes are typically on the men's team, and from what I can just tell, just with the women's team and stuff, it's tough to replace Chloe Kitts. Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt about it. She's a really good player for South Carolina, and someone that it was definitely viewed as an early WNBA draft pick in the first round potentially. I think for South Carolina, again, without really knowing much about this team, they're down 2 players right now with some injuries. How can South Carolina fill those voids? That's going to be very interesting to see. I know they brought in some nice players from the portal and stuff, but I do wonder how the size of this team will be affected with 2 forwards being out for the year.
Jack, you're the best, man. Appreciate you. You're rocking and rolling. You're busy. And people, again, can follow you on Twitter at Jack T. Veltri and follow your work where?
You can follow me, like you said, Jack T. Veltri on social media for Twitter. I'm over there. I'm pretty active all the time. You can also go ahead and join me on GamecockCentral.com. Again, I got baseball updates on there right now, basketball updates tonight, Shane Beamer updates. I mean, look, I do it all over there.
You're the man.
And, check out a lot of my work.
You are the man. Thanks, Jack.
I appreciate it, fellas.
Jack Veltri, Gamecock Central. He's literally, I mean, what a busy day.
Does he live on campus?
I'd hope so.
Broom
I'd hope
so.
Going from football to baseball to basketball in one day.
Be racking up the miles.
The
on his
life
company
of
car.
a beat writer, right?
I'm telling you, it's not the worst gig in the world, though.
No,
it's a lot of fun.
It is.
When we come back, Cole, the newest, hottest, prettiest opening in college football at the University of Florida. Obviously, a lot of people are throwing around one huge name to take the job, but how good of a fit would he be? We'll get into it next. You know that saying, Cole, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush?
Yeah, I've heard that.
That is the exact scenario that Lane Kiffin finds himself in right now. He is at Ole Miss. They are a ranked team playing really good football. It seems as if he has got Ole Miss football rolling at a level of consistency that Ole Miss football has not had for a very long time prior to him getting there. You know, Ole Miss would pop up, they'd have a really good season or two, and then they would fall back and be terrible for a while.
Yeah.
And they would pop up, and then they would fall back for a while. But Lane Kiffin's name is being thrown around pretty heavily for the Florida job now that Billy Napier is gone. John Talty of CBS Sports reported on Billy being fired, and in the title, he says the tea leaves suggest Lane is intrigued. I think it would be one of the dumbest decisions Lane Kiffin has ever made to leave Ole Miss, a situation that is really, really good for him, to go jump into that level of a firestorm. What do you think?
I think you're wrong. I think Lane
Wow.
Kiffin wakes up and he does recognize, Diesel, what you said, the consistency that Ole Miss has never had. However, Lane Kiffin, unfortunately, has reached a level that we all have, whether it's to a large degree or a minimal degree, Diesel, of you plateau and you think, okay, well, I want more. And I know they're ranked and I know they're good. And I know in the portal era of college football, they can continue to be dominant and competitive, but they're still, again, I said it a couple of weeks ago, you just cannot convince me that when he lays that head down at night on the pillow, he doesn't think about, man, what can I do at Florida? I think it crosses his mind. I think he's aware of it. And while Ole Miss is consistent, I just don't know that Ole Miss will ever be on the level of Florida. What happens to Ole Miss if Lane were to leave? I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't know that they're not Florida.
They got money, they got support, but it's not Florida money and support. But think about it this way. Lane Kiffin has bounced around multiple times in his career, and I'm not necessarily talking about the FAU experiment. I'm talking about, NFL, Tennessee, Southern Cal, and he has seen firsthand what happens when you're constantly chasing that higher rung on the ladder, right? And just about every one of those times, it is blown up in his face. So I think Lane Kiffin, I hope that Lane Kiffin at, what is he, probably 55-ish years old? I would hope that Lane Kiffin has learned better at this point than to let his ego drive him to leave a really, really good situation for Florida. It's like being married to a stable 9 hot woman. But then you look across the way and you peek your head into the gentleman's club across the way and you say, oh, there's a 10 in there who's a train wreck, but I could fix her. And could you imagine if I could have that 10 over there?
Yeah, but you just think like if Lane Kiffin, Diesel, if his DNA holds true, which is he has been successful pretty much everywhere. We know what happened at Southern Cal. That didn't go well. It didn't end well, right? But what happened, Diesel, when he left Southern Cal, he then what? He then was able to go work for Nick Saban, the greatest to ever do it, kind of revive his career a little bit, right? And look just how good he was for Nick Saban at a time where college football was evolving more to the spread offense. It was a match made in heaven that everybody said would not work. So I just think ultimately we've seen the DNA of Lane Kiffin show us that this guy's a winner. This guy's got what it takes. And if we think what Lane has done at Ole Miss is impressive, what Lane at Florida could be, I think with his DNA, his ability to recruit, his ability to use the portal, I think Lane Kiffin's one of the best coaches in football. And I think ultimately Florida would be stupid not to go after him. I think we'll continue to hear his name thrown around, but I think he would be uber successful immediately at Florida.
Tolos, what say you? 844-326-3663. If you were in Lane Kiffin's shoes, would you stay at Ole Miss? Would you take the Florida job? And maybe further than that, what do you think Lane will actually do? I think he's matured enough to realize he's got a really, really good situation at Ole Miss. We'll just have to wait and see. It's not a money thing. Florida could throw $11 million at him, and they probably will. But Lane's making over $9 million at Ole Miss.
Yeah,
He's making a ton of money. He's already in the top 10 highest paid coaches in college football.
But you know Lane Kiffin. Have you ever seen a picture of Oxford, Mississippi compared to Florida? The beaches, the women, the views.
But Gainesville's not at the beach.
But he's only
Gainesville
he's
is landlocked.
He can get in that car.
Lane
and he can
would get
drive.
himself in so much trouble. Lane would get himself in. I was talking to an Alabama fan, and he is part of the Upset Picks Challenge, so I won't say his name. But he knows a lot about what was going on with old Lane. And a lot of people have heard the stories of what was going on with Lane in Tuscaloosa and the bad behavior that he was up to. Lane does not need that level of temptation in Gainesville. He doesn't need it. But he would be an absolutely beautiful spiritual successor to Steve Spurrier, wouldn't he?
It'd be something. I'm telling you. If he's matured, if he has reached the point in his life where he knows good from evil and which fruit to eat and which fruit not to eat, I think he could go there if he were focused on football, and I think he could be one of the greatest coaches to ever coach at Florida. And that's saying something with the Spurriers and the Urban Meyers, and the list goes on and on. But I've always been high on Lane Kiffin. I could be wrong. Maybe it could be a train wreck, but ultimately – wouldn't it be fun to see? Let's press the button and find out.
50-19 at Ole Miss with a 725 win percentage, the highest win percentage he's had at any stop he's ever been at. Come on, Lane. Don't walk away from a good thing.
That's a pretty good record, by the way.
Yeah. He was good at USC,
yeah.
28-15. Really good at FAU. But not as good as he is at Ole Miss.
Texter says Lane Kiffin is very good at rebuilding programs. He's a James Franklin type, can't win big games, but he gets programs winning again. Another texter says Tennessee wasn't that program. USC wasn't that program. Still dazzling with everyone's BS. I don't know if texter, what do you mean by that? Are you anti-Lane Kiffin? Let us know. 844-326-3663. Diesel, let's get into Shane Beamer. He spoke to the media today. Normally on Tuesdays, we talk about what Dabo Swinney had to say. Unfortunately, Dabo didn't speak today because of their bye week. But what Beamer said, we react to it. And also, is firing Mike Shula the right decision right now? That's next. Would firing Mike Shula right now actually be the right decision at this point in the season? Gamecock fans want to hear from you. 844-326-3663. That's the question. I know that's the popular take narrative right now. Want to get your thoughts on that. And Guy, we put you on hold twice. If you want to get back in, you can do so at 844-326-3663 if you have time. Phone lines are open, talking South Carolina football. And even if you're a Clemson fan, we'd love to hear from you. 844-FAN-PHONE. Diesel, before we get into this Shane Beamer audio from today and react to what Shane Beamer had to say, it's always funny that the immediate response is to fire everybody. I just don't know, kind of like I talked about with Jack Veltri, I am one in the camp that Mike Shula is no good. They're not getting the most out of their offense. But at this point in the season, I don't know what you're going to gain if you do fire him. You kind of, to me, you feel like you are who you are at this point.
Well, you got to look bigger picture. Certainly it affects the team and the players. Not that, players signed with South Carolina to play for Mike Shula. Maybe one or two of them did. Hard to say. But now you become known as that program that has essentially institutional instability. And coaches start to think about that. Like, hey, do I take the job at South Carolina? Does that limit some of your candidates possibly for somebody who might want to replace Mike Shula next year? Hard to say. But if you don't like his play calling, Shane has to have the conversation with him and say, hey, you have to change the way you call plays.
Something's got to give.
Let's work this out. I know you're a talented guy, Mike. Your resume speaks for itself. You're a good coordinator, but clearly what we're doing is not working. So we have to change the way you're calling plays.
Yeah.
And if that means sort of just, spinning a roulette wheel and stopping, and that's the play you're going to run this time, okay, great. But people have figured you out at this point.
You're predictable. And I think if you're having that conversation, which by the way, I agree with you, that conversation's past needed, but you've got to have Mike Shula understand that this is your offense. You've got to call plays and create this offense that fits what you have. Right now, what you're calling is not fitting what you have, Mike, and we've got to have something to give. That's why I asked the question to Jack Veltri back at 422 about just throwing the kitchen sink out there.
This is maybe it's a slightly facetious thing to say, but South Carolina's offensive line stinks. And if you're letting guys up the middle into the backfield in a matter of a split second, you need to maybe run more of an option style offense. You got to get that ball outside to the edge, get it in the hands of your playmakers, and let them figure it out. Let your offensive incompetence, your offensive line incompetence become a weapon.
Yeah.
Make the defensive line over pursue by getting through the offensive line quickly and easily, and then you can pitch the ball outside. And I know that's not the easiest thing you do. You can't teach Lenore Sellers how to be an option quarterback like that. I mean, it would get far worse before it gets better. But, you got to try something at this point.
You just got to, to me, my biggest takeaway real quick before we get to the phones is you've got to cater to what your quarterback can do well. And they're simply not doing that. Let's go to the phone lines, 844-326-3663. We hear from Crazy Ralph for the first time in a long time. What's up, Crazy Ralph?
Yeah, I've been sick about this for days. I was at the game on Saturday. I was sitting 50-yard line. A buddy of mine gave me free tickets. I'm glad I didn't pay to watch that disgusting display of play calling. Listen, you guys know they hired Shula. What a terrible decision this was. I'd have to disagree with my friend there, Diesel, because you called him talented. What has he ever done? I mean, he coached Cam Newton, but those were NFL caliber offensive linemen blocking for Cam. And let's just admit, Cam was a freak. He was amazing in his prime. So I don't count that when it comes to Mike Shula. He hadn't lasted anywhere long, but I don't even blame him for his inadequacies. I blame the only person that we can blame, and that's Shane frickin' Beamer. This guy couldn't hire a Division I caliber coach if his life depended on it. It's almost like with Shula, they've got the little coach's sons club or something. The coach's son kids that no other team wants or would ever employ or give a job. So therefore, there's this sick, twisted bond that Beamer has with this guy to where he can't let him go. And you know what? They're ruining Lenore Sellers because of it. I'll tell you who looked really good the other day was when they put Cutter Woods from Westside High School in there. He actually looked like a quarterback. But I think they've already ruined Lenore. They need to cut ties with Shula. G.A. Mangus is right there in Columbia. Heck, I know he doesn't know the team or the players, but I'd let him call plays for the rest of the season till you find a capable guy.
Crazy Ralph, how many fried Oreos did you eat after the game to kind of wash that taste of that game out of your mouth? Oh, he dropped the call.
He hung up.
He hung up on us.
Yeah, that's what you call a drop mic.
There you go. Well,
yeah, look,
calling me out for using the words talented guy. Look, maybe I was wrong about that.
Here's the reality of it. Gamecock fans, and you know, we can be harsh, we can empathize, we can play both sides of the spectrum here. But the reality of it is, before we get to this Shane Beamer audio from earlier today, they're just not getting it done. Flat, period. End of sentence. Done. I mean, period. That's it. They're not getting it done. And you can, make it into what you want to make it, but they're not, they're just not getting the job done. And these guys, Diesel, they're the coaches, the players. I'm done with the days of not getting on the players. Used to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, I was in the mindset that these are college athletes. We've got to be careful in how we cover them because they're amateur athletes. Well, I'm not in that camp anymore. They're not getting it done. The coaches are getting paid millions. The players are getting paid a lot of money. And I'm telling you, the players as a freshman, if you go as a freshman and you're starting, you're getting paid a lot of money. I know how much some players are making. They're not doing their job. Plain and simple. Every fan, every Gamecock fan has a right to be frustrated.
Well, getting paid doesn't change the fact that you're still an 18-year-old young man who's got all kinds of crazy hormones running through your body. You're on campus with new hot girls for the first time and you got a little cash in your pocket. I honestly believe that money makes it harder to perform, right? That money makes it harder because now you've got, on top of all the other things that Division I athletes have had to deal with for time immemorial since college football was a thing. Now you're adding the craziness of cash onto their plate. And not only are you doing it like one time and saying, hey, here's what you're going to get every year consistently for 4 years while you're in college here. Now they're doing the whole thing of, oh, you got to go get those opportunities day in and day out. You got to be talking to your agent day in and day out. At the end of the season, you got to have another conversation with your agent. Maybe it's time to move on to a different school. Maybe you deserve more. Maybe you deserve less. Do you have the stones to walk into the coach's office and say, hey, coach, I want a $500,000 pay raise or I'm going to leave? I think it makes it harder.
I certainly don't think it's easier. I can't push back. Like I can't say and with a straight face that, I disagree with you because it doesn't make it easier. You add money into anything in life and it makes it complicated to a degree, to a level. It just not always complicates it, but it does change it in anything, Diesel. Anytime money is involved,
Sure.
it changes the aspect of the duties.
I wonder, and it's going to take a couple of years, right? You can't just go off of a couple of years of anecdotal evidence. You hear stories about the kids who are using their money for positive. They're helping mom, dad pay off a house, a loan, a car, whatever it may be. But we're also not hearing much about the ones that are not using their money for positive, the ones that are essentially crashing and burning because they got more money than they've ever seen in their lives. It might take 20 years of evidence to kind of look back on and say, hey, here's the percentage of players who went essentially net positive with the money that they got and the ones that went net negative. It's going to be interesting to find out.
Phone line still open. The text line, the Hub City Spartanburgers text line open as well before we get to this audio. Texter from the 205 says, as an Alabama fan who remembers Mike Shula as our coach, I don't think he's a good coach at all. Just let him go. He's been predictable and awful for 25 years. And to Crazy Ralph's point, I know he's animated and emotional, but like to his point, Diesel, you're going to give credit to Cam Newton and Mike Shula because look what happened with Belichick and Brady when they split. It was very evident that it was Brady more than it was, Belichick. So maybe to Crazy Ralph's point, it was a lot more on Cam Newton than it was Mike Shula. Here's what Shane Beamer said earlier today, just a few hours ago, Gamecock fans. If you have not heard so yet, we will listen and react. I want to hear your reactions as well. 844-326-3663.
All right, excited for a new week. Grateful for another opportunity to go compete that we get to Saturday in Williams-Brice. Big challenge. Alabama's got a fantastic team. Coach DeBoer has done an amazing job with them. Great athletes on defense, really good players and dynamic on special teams, and then a quarterback that is playing better than any quarterback in the nation right now. I mean, this guy is on fire. He's a great young man. We tried to recruit him here. Great young man, great player, great family, and really happy for his success. Some of the throws he's made this season, I mean, just are mind-boggling. He's playing at a high level. Their offense is operating at a high level. Got a big challenge in front of us, but I know our guys are really looking forward to the opportunity to go compete Saturday afternoon in Williams-Brice Stadium again. And certainly disappointed with last Saturday, but new week, and this is another opportunity for our guys to get better this week and go compete and hard at it. Questions? David, how you doing? Great.
Shane, first, any update on Dylan, the other injured guys?
Should all be good. I think everybody will be back and healthy this week, except Case and Henry. He'll be out. Don't think he'll return this season. So certainly not playing this Saturday, but everybody else was back out there and practicing today.
And 2 years ago, you guys had a lot of injuries on the offensive line. I'm assuming you probably tweaked something at the year. Do you see some of the same stuff happening as then, or is this just different?
I think it's different. I mean, certainly you do an analysis of it during the season and something that we'll look at after the season in regards to, the why of some of these things and how they occurred. But I think a lot of them are just kind of, freak things and look at it, whether it be, stuff in practice, stuff in games, how we're training. But we did a lot, like you said, a deep dive a couple years ago because we had such a rash of them 2 seasons ago. I don't think this is that, but still to have as many at one position.
Lost a little audio there for a minute.
I remember somebody posted. Somebody posted during this that the audio was dropping out.
Oh my gosh! Did Jack Veltri pull the plug?
Jack.
Did Jack do it?
He says, "Shane, you embarrassed me, so I'm going to kick the plug out of the wall."
It is a good question, though, when you talk about the offensive line injuries that David Cloninger was asking about right there. They just, sometimes you're just unfortunate in a area, and for whatever reason, you can blame this, you can blame that, you can blame strength and conditioning, whatever. Sometimes you just get bit and
snake bit.
Yeah, snake bit. And at that offensive line position, to his point, the issues they've had have just been detrimental, Diesel, to their success this year.
Yeah, to have an effective offensive line in the SEC is already hard enough. And then when you're running down that depth chart, you're calling guys, effectively off the practice squad. Say, hey, come on up, man. We need you. And you got to go block somebody who's starting defensive lineman for Alabama or Oklahoma that's going to be in the NFL next year. That's a tall task.
More Beamer, maybe, depending on if the audio is fixed.
Shane, when the team isn't playing up to expectations, there does seem to be a lot of noise on the outside. How is that handled internally, either in terms of using it as motivation or blocking it out?
Good question.
Block it out. If you're spending time listening to that noise, then you're not doing the things that you need to be doing to get better. You're not doing the things that you need to be doing to win. When our players walk out of the locker room each and every day, they see a sign on the door of the locker room that's there permanently that says, starve your distractions, feed your focus. And I love that. I mean, starve your distractions, all the things that are cluttering your mind. Starve it as much as you can and feed your focus. And again, I understand there's noise out there and there should be. I'm not happy with where we are right now. And I'm going to get it fixed because we got great young men in this program. And as the leader and as the head coach of this program, I realize and I'm letting a lot of people down right now with the way that we're playing. Our players that I feel like I'm letting down, our coaches, our players' families, our coaches' families, the student body, the 80,000 people that pack Williams-Brice Stadium every Saturday. The state of South Carolina, from Charleston to Myrtle Beach to the upstate to the Midlands, there's a lot of people that live and die with Gamecock football on Saturdays, and I get it. They're not happy, and neither am I. And I take that personally because I truly feel like I'm letting a lot of people down right now. And I'm working hard each and every week to try and to get it fixed, making the decisions schematically, personnel-wise, staff-wise, each and every week to get it fixed. And it's a process, but we're going to get it fixed. We're not far off from where we want to be.
I'd like to ask a follow-up to that of, what does that mean? You're not far off. What do you see that tells you that,
Well, I just wonder if he was tipping his hat a little bit there, saying, hey, we're maybe looking at making some more personnel decisions, some more personnel changes, coaching changes.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's tough. I think he's in a very tough spot. I agree with what he said there, and I like that he owns. Like, I appreciate that he's owning up to it. Look, this is on me. I've upset and disappointed a lot of people. Diesel, we talked about yesterday how quickly a fan base can turn on you. They've turned, and I don't know that they've the complete 180 yet, but they're in that process, right? So we know how scary it can be for him, and what was so amazing a season ago, and even with ups and downs throughout the season, you ended it well by beating Clemson. You fast forward not even a calendar year, and boy, things aren't going well. But he said right there, I'm gonna fix it. I want to see how. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I appreciate him going into that salesman mode again and saying, hey, it's on me to fix it. I've made these mistakes. I've put us in this position, and I'm going to fix it. That was good. I mean, that was a forward-looking perspective on what this program needs to be doing. Compare that to what we always hear from Dabo Swinney. It's, I've done this in the past, and I've achieved this in the past. I deserve more credit. I deserve more patience, whatever it may be. And there is a modicum of truth to that, but this is a forward-looking business.
It is. And the reality is time is of the essence. I mean, you've got to win, and you've got to win quick. A few more minutes of what Beamer said today.
There's no microphone ready. Oh, okay. Shane, Boaz was in here, and he said that one thing the offensive line needed to do is play meaner. How does Coach Elliott help in that regard?
Yeah, I think, there's plenty of instances before Coach Elliott got here as the offensive line coach where we were playing mean up front. And I can show you examples on tape of where we, did that. There's a play that we there's multiple plays of that, but that's a mindset. I think that comes from, just eliminating clutter in their heads. Not saying that there was, but the more we can do, just eliminate clutter in their heads and make it simple for guys to just go play and come off the ball and not have to think so much. And we've got tough guys in that offensive line room, and they want to play that way. We just need to continue to help them. And certainly Sean's personality allows that to come out in them, to say the least.
Okay.
Shane, you talked about.
Hi, Jack.
Hi, Jack.
And he's smiling from ear to ear. So that's funny. That's funny. Let me back that up one more time. I got to hear that again. Where are we at on this? I've got to back this up a little bit. That's good stuff.
They want to play that way. We just need to continue to help them. And certainly Sean's personality allows that to come out in them, to say the least.
Okay.
Shane, you talked about.
Hi, Jack.
Hey, Shane. You're doing well. You talked about fixing it, but where in your mind does that process start? And what are the steps you feel like you, in your mind, but the team need to take to get to where you eventually want to be and get back with the wins and stuff?
Yeah, I think it's it's week to week, it's day to day, it's season to season, whatever. I mean, it's things that I'm looking at each and every day. In the short term, it's the decision I made from a staffing standpoint last week or 2 weeks ago to follow up on your question from Saturday. If I felt like more changes on offense were warranted right now, and needed that was best for us, I would certainly do it. I don't right now. And I see what we're trying to do. I see how it's being coached, and I see the people and how they're working, and it's not good enough. But I look at it as, okay, how can I, as the head coach, continue to do the things right now in the short term, meaning in the middle of the season, to fix it. And it might be something from a personnel standpoint, who we're playing with on offense and defense.
I'm going to stop that real quick. We'll get back to it. To me, that screams it's more on player than it is coaching. To me.
I mean, I would have loved to have heard Shane go a little more in depth in that. If what he's saying is that Mike Shula is the best play caller we have on our coaching staff right now, then say that out loud. Like if what you're saying is, the coach that you listed off earlier, Furry, and Jack mentioned somebody else different. If Shane's saying that those two guys are not ready yet to be SEC play callers, just say Mike Shula is the best play caller we have on our staff right now. And sure, what we've been trying hasn't been working, but we've been trying to play to what we originally identified as our team's strengths. Now those things are turning out not to be strengths. So we're going back to the drawing board, and we're coming up with new plays, and we're kind of reworking our play sheets of what we think we can be good at, and we're going to change some things up a little bit.
Yeah, and that might be the case.
Yeah,
but again, without Beamer throwing the players under the bus, to me, it sounds like what he's evaluating seems to be falling on the players more. Let's let him finish this answer, then we got to run the break.
Special teams. It may be something that as the head coach, I step in and say, from a schematic standpoint, we don't need to be doing this anymore, or we need to be doing this more, or less or more, which I have. We don't need to be doing this as much, or we need to be doing this more. I've done that. And then you're always evaluating, and that's each day, that's throughout the season, and then that's after the season also. And, it's like I told our team this morning, Jack, we're 3-4 right now. Nobody's happy, but nobody's coming to save us. What we have on this team is what we are right now, and it's not good enough, but we've got the people, the players, and the coaches to get it right this season. And it's cliche, but it's true. You just go right back to work and just keep trying to get better each and every day.
I don't think his roster is good enough to go through this gauntlet of the SEC, and especially this 5-game stretch, Diesel. I also don't think the coaching is good enough for as good as the season he had a season ago. It just, they're, like I said earlier, nobody's good enough right now, and the roster not being good enough, unfortunately, that falls on Shane Beamer.
Yeah, that means we haven't evaluated well enough. We haven't recruited well enough, and it's rearing its ugly head at this point in the season. Cole, when we come back, this has turned into kind of a tough thing to do. Normally, you get some separation as we get deep into the season, week 7, 8, 9, 10, but we have not quite achieved that yet. Our Carolinas top 10, ranking the 10 FBS playing teams in the Carolinas. Will there be any contention here? We'll talk about it next. Everybody loves lists. Everybody loves to debate rankings. We're going to do that in this segment. Our Carolinas top 10, 1 through 10, the 10 FBS playing schools here in the Carolinas. But before we move on to that, let's stick with the South Carolina Gamecocks conversation. Go to a good friend of the show. Mustin joins, wants to talk South Carolina. I guess you're calling in with a vote of confidence on Mike Shula. Is that right, Mustin?
Well, I called, I actually just got in my car. I said, I'll call you when I am in my car because I'm more confident when I'm driving. And, the bad thing is Hot Stuff from Donna Summers was playing. So I was debating on whether to call you or listen to her.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, so I'm like, I better call Cole. He's been waiting on my call for 15 minutes. So.
That's right. Let me ask you, how are you? Are you, like Diesel said, are you confident? You down bad? What's Mustin thinking right now as a Gamecock?
Well, as much as we were hoping this past weekend would have been that weekend where all of a sudden, we have all the negative things going on like we did last year. And all of a sudden the light turns on and Beamer gets the team going against Oklahoma and, we win 6 in a row and beat the crap out of Clemson, and the Clemson fans talk crap about their team, but it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Look, we have faith in Beamer. We're hoping. Look, we love the guy. We don't want to fire him, and we're not going to. As much as Clemson fans wish we would, and then we'd have all this turmoil going on. But I don't know, man. I mean, this past weekend had to be one of the worst, I don't know about stats-wise, but had to be one of the worst offensive games I've ever seen in Columbia, South Carolina. We love our boy Sellers, but, he can't do it himself. I mean, you watch him there. He's running for his life. He's trying to get 2 yards. And the play calling, okay, granted, there's everybody saying, well, our offensive line sucks. Okay, great. We know that. And now we got apparently 3-4 of those guys not going to be suited, which might be a good thing. I mean, hell, they weren't doing anything anyway. Why play them if they're not worth a darn? So, but then, okay, as an offensive coordinator, as a head coach, okay, if you know certain things aren't working on your team, then you got to adjust. You got to do, I think once or twice we did a screenplay that actually got us 5-6 yards, and so try something different. I don't know. It's just, going up the middle 3 times in a row, even though you're on the 1 yard line. I mean, you got Sellers who, is hard to stop, yet, we give the ball to a guy who weighs less than me trying to go up the middle. It's just, I don't know. I'm lost for words. I'm hoping that Beamer will make us Gamecock fans, us true Gamecock fans that think that we might get slaughtered by Alabama. I hope we have to. I would love to call your show on Monday and say, man, I'll wear orange shirt for a whole day. Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know where we at. There's nothing there on offense. And hey,
what most people don't realize, Mustin, what most people don't realize about you is that you are 6'4", 220. You are built like a Buick, my friend.
Oh, baby. Hey, and I just left the gym too. And
There you go.
I feel pumped up. I got, I'm about to go do a fireball shot with my buddies, and I'm all.
All right, real quick before we let you go, what's your prediction? What's the score Saturday?
Oh my God! Hey, what is the line? I don't even know what the
11
line
and a
is.
half.
I tell you, I mean, if I was still betting, which thank God I quit because I was about to lose my house, I don't see it why you, as a betting guy, you wouldn't take Alabama.
Right.
But the line has dropped, right? Somebody said it was 13 or 14. So somebody thinks something in South Carolina. I don't know. I don't want to predict it because then, everybody, you a fair weather fan. You didn't take your Gamecocks when they pulled this upset off.
Yeah.
Boston, but
hopefully it gets better, man. Thanks for the call, man.
Hey, Cole, come join me for a drink.
I wish I could. I'm on air till 7. Talk to you soon, man. Mustin, appreciate the phone call as always. And look, every Gamecock fan out there is upset about it.
To
They
his
should
point,
be, yeah.
you have to get the ball out into space quickly. You got to design plays that way instead of trying to run up the middle. I mean, anybody trying to run up a middle against Oklahoma is going to fail. They have an extremely good defense, especially at stopping the run. You are not going to be successful. And to his point, you don't have the guy that weighs 40 pounds less and is 3 inches shorter than Lenora Sellers be the one taking the ball.
Yeah.
You let the guy that is built like a Buick run the football. Unfortunately, you do that, you risk Lenora Sellers, and it seems like they're still trying to be super cautious with him.
It's sad. Hopefully it'll get better. It's got to get better before it gets worse, right?
So the question is, Cole, if you were looking at the top 10 teams in the Carolinas, I don't think you have a choice but to move South Carolina down the list from where they were last week. There's not a tremendous, in my mind, there's not a tremendous amount of movement, and this is getting harder and harder to do because there is just so much mediocrity in the Carolinas when it comes to college football.
There is.
The best record in the Carolinas, and there are 6 teams who share this same record, 4-3.
That's the best record.
You got 6 teams that are 4-3. Well, I take that back. Wake Forest is 4-2 because they have had an extra bye week. But Duke is my number 1 team still in the Carolinas. I know here's the crazy thing. You look back at what happened this past week. Duke lost. Clemson lost. South Carolina lost. App State lost. UNC lost. Charlotte lost. Out of the 10 teams in the Carolinas that play FBS football, only 2 of them won, and that's Coastal and East Carolina.
That's pretty pathetic for your Carolina's top 10. That list might get canceled if things continue to go this way. And to James Taylor's song that's playing, Diesel, I don't know that anybody wants these Carolina teams on their mind as bad as it is right now.
Well, I think a lot of teams want these Carolina teams on their schedule.
Oh, that's a good point.
The thing. You put these teams on your schedule. To me, the biggest threat on this entire list, still, even though they lost 27-18 to Georgia Tech, is still the Duke Blue Devils. You look at their points, 4 points against, 146-84. They're scoring a lot more than teams are scoring against them. I think they would outscore everybody on this list. And if you had to put Duke against South Carolina today in Charlotte, I think Duke would beat them by 2 touchdowns.
And Darian Mensah's probably the reason you say that, because he's had a heck of a season.
Real good.
70.3 completion percentage, over 2,000 yards already. He's got 5,000 yards, almost 5,000 yards in his career just in 2 seasons, Diesel. He was at Tulsa a year ago. Look at this quarterback going to the portal and being successful, right? Duke teaching Clemson fans a lesson there. 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and he's got a quarterback rating of 165.8. This guy, I know that Darian Mensah's not being talked about come April for NFL draft and everything like that, but look at the 2 seasons this cat has played in college football. I don't know where he'll be next year, but this guy's going to be up there. This guy has been efficient. He takes care of the football. He's only thrown 7 interceptions in 2 seasons. This is a good quarterback. To your point, I think Darian Mensah's Duke Blue Devils should be number 1.
You know, this is not meant to be a transfer portal conversation, but you were alluding obviously there to Clemson and not going to the portal for a good backup. If Christopher Vezina, what he gave us this past Saturday against this SMU, which was not bad. If that's the absolute best he can do, I think it would be gross mismanagement for Dabo Swinney not to bring in a really good FCS style quarterback. I mean, I know the guy at Western Carolina, he's small, so he probably wouldn't fit that great at Clemson's in their system. What they're trying to do, they're trying to get back to that bigger body, tall quarterback. But by God, that guy is going to be on somebody's roster next year in the FBS, and he is going to torch a lot of teams as an undersized guy. Still, though, Cole, despite the fact that, Clemson lost to SMU, I've got to keep them at my number 2 spot. I mean, look behind them. It's Wake Forest, who's improving, but Wake Forest wouldn't beat Clemson right now.
No.
Would they? No.
No, so you've got Duke 1.
Clemson 2. Wake Forest 3.
Oh, my God. Let me just tell you this. as you're giving this top 10 list, this just tells you how bad the teams in the Carolinas are if Clemson's still number 2.
I know.
And they're 3-4 on the season.
Yep.
Is there nobody below them that could?
I mean, would you take East Carolina to beat Clemson right now?
No.
I mean, again,
No.
I would have to assume that Cade Klubnik is going to be back
Against
next
Duke?
week against Duke, or this week against Duke, or no, excuse me, next week against
yeah.
Duke. I would have to assume that, and obviously they were getting better the last 2 weeks prior to the SMU game. If Cade goes down, are we talking about a completely different football, or does it go down? Are we looking at a completely different football game?
I like what Vizina did. I like what he did a lot.
Defense would have still given up a lot of points.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
But you just you'd feel like there's a little bit more of a steady hand
Sure.
there. I've got East Carolina 4. I've got South Carolina 5.
Okay.
Because they can't block anybody, and any one of these teams is getting through that line and getting at the quarterback. I've got NC State number 6 because they just got pantsed by a pretty good Notre Dame, though we're not sure exactly what this Notre Dame team is. They look good against USC, really good against NC State.
Lost 2 early games
Yeah.
against good teams, though. But you're right. NC State's not a good football team.
I've got Coastal at 7, moving up from 8 to 7 from last week after they beat App State. They've got a quarterback on that team, Samari Collier, who is for real. He didn't really pop on the stat sheet.
Is that the backup?
He was the backup, yeah. And he came in and he was really good because Coastal was bad going into that App State game. They made the quarterback switch, and all of a sudden they look great. But I've got App State at number 8. I knew for a fact in my mind, I knew it in my heart that when App State had it at the 4-yard line with a chance to go up 10 points and they couldn't get it, they had to kick a field goal to only have a 6-point lead. I knew App State was losing that game because I knew that Samari Collier was going to march that Coastal Carolina team down the field and score a touchdown. I just knew it. But number 9 and number 10, Cole, this is no surprise. It hasn't changed, I don't think, since we started this thing. I think the punishment for these two teams should be that their schedule is wiped clean for the rest of the season, and they have to play each other again and again and again for the rest of the year. Make North Carolina and UNC Charlotte play each other so that we could actually finally settle that debate. If these two teams played 10 times, which one of these teams would win 6?
I guess North Carolina, right? I would assume. Maybe. Nobody knows.
But has the team quit on Belichick?
It doesn't look like they're enthused, does it? Mike Main says WNC is the best team in the Carolinas, hands down. Western Carolina or the SoCon Western, or do you mean ECU? Because Diesel is just doing FBS, right?
Yeah, and Western Carolina, by the way, they are 5-3 overall.
Yeah.
So they're not an amazing football team. I know that they didn't have their quarterback for a couple of weeks, for the first couple of weeks of the season.
Sure.
So they didn't get off to the start that they wanted to. But, I mean, come on. They got trounced by Wake Forest early in the season, 42-10. It wasn't even a ball game. They've kind of gone back and forth. They've had weeks where they looked amazing and weeks where they looked terrible.
Shane and Sugar Tit on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line might be my new favorite Tolo for this text. He says, got to look at the bright side. I can sit in the deer stand on Saturdays instead of watching Clemson. I'm in the lock-on right now. I'll let you know how it goes. That is a true Tolo. In the woods, in the deer stand, well, I guess with his AirPod or headphones in, Toloing. I mean, it's right at dusk. It's right at prime peak time. The deer should be on their feet right now, and Shane and Sugar Tits listening to the fan upstate.
Do you think, Cole, that a day in a tree stand where you don't even see a deer is still a good day?
Yeah, but you got to be very specific because, you know, the old saying, like a day on the lake's better or a bad day on the lake's better than a good day at work, or a bad day in the woods better than a good day at work. No, that's not true, because a bad day at the lake could be you wrecked your boat, it caught on fire, and your leg fell off. That's not better than a good day at work, right? A bad day in the woods could be you fell from the tree stand and broke your hip. That's not better than a good day at work. So you do have to be specific.
Bad day in a tree stand is that Slim Jim that you ate before climbing the tree stand.
Yeah.
Hits you hard, and you got to scramble down that tree stand, and sometimes you don't always make it.
Texter says, just wanted to remind all the listeners that Wofford still owns Furman.
God, that was a mind blower to see Wofford do to Furman.
Is that
what
not
they did.
crazy? And we'll talk to Clay Hendricks on Thursday about it. But you and I, as bad as I just was bagging on Wofford last Thursday how bad they've been this year, and for them to beat Furman the way they did, like 31-13 or whatever it was. I texted you Saturday and said, Wofford just beat Furman.
Yeah,
that was very surprising.
31-13.
That's crazy.
How many fans now, Texter? I don't know if you're I would assume you're a Wofford fan. Did you go to the game? How many fans showed up for that game?
It was
How many fans are showing up
in
for Wofford
Spartanburg,
games?
right?
Yeah. How many fans are showing up for Wofford games right now?
They usually have a good turnout, but obviously with their season being the way it has, I don't know. RJ says, if UNC and Charlotte played a 7-game football series, the Tar Heels already hold a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, we know that.
Jarrett Tripp says, I know it's FCS, but PC is still undefeated. And Madcraft brought PC up on the stream as well. PC's the hottest team, and
Everybody's talking about them.
The Blue Hose. You got to love it, right? Presbyterian College. Oh, man, you got to love it. Diesel, I have a told you so moment. I saw this on the news. This is not sports related, but you and everybody else gives me a hard time for as much as I use Chat GPT. Well, I'm going to use my I told you so next. Well, everybody says, you use Chat GPT too much. It can't be useful. You need to rely on your brain, yada, 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 all that stuff, Diesel, right? Because people are just envious that they can't think like Chat GPT can. But I saw this story on the news today, and I said, I told you so. I don't know if you've seen this yet, but a Michigan resident named Tammy Carvey won a $100,000 jackpot at her local convenience store after using ChatGPT to choose her numbers, joining a growing wave of players turning to AI for lottery picks. See? I told you so. You want $100,000? Use ChatGPT. Go to your local convenience store, buy your ticket, and you'll be a winner, right?
Yeah, but how many millions of people have used ChatGPT and it didn't win?
Oh, none.
Oh, so it's one for one. She's the only one.
No, I'm kidding.
Interesting.
That's where we are. Think about it. The lottery. I mean, I used to watch a lot of like crime shows and stuff, and I remember one episode of, I believe it was NCIS New Orleans Diesel, where this guy tried to kind of do that with the lottery and rig it or whatever so that he could win. But is that where we are now? That Chat GPT can be the cause or
it's
the
not
reason?
The cause. It just got lucky
No,
and guessed
it
the right
didn't.
numbers.
No, she's not winning that Powerball ticket without Chat GPT, Diesel.
They say like using personal numbers, your wife's birthday, your anniversary date, the score of the football game, whatever. Using all that is bad when it comes to picking lottery numbers. But is it though? Because it's random. It's completely random. Like using the same numbers week after week after week after week. I mean, I guess there's no difference. There's no difference in whether or not it's going to hit.
I'm just saying that the AI, she's $100,000 richer because of ChatGPT.
But like the numbers that are selected today have nothing to do with the numbers that were selected over the past 5 years. So you couldn't say, hey, ChatGPT, using the lottery numbers that have won from the past 5 years, can you give me the winning lottery numbers for this week? And it's still going to spit out a same group of random numbers.
Well, guess what? You might be right, but I'm going to try it.
Oh, gosh.
I'm going to try it. You kidding me? Why not? ChatGPT is free. Yeah, what do you have to lose? It's free. I don't play the lottery, but like twice a year, I think I play the lottery. Maybe 2 times or 3 times a year. I might buy one scratch-off ticket every 3 years. I just don't do it a lot. But now, I promise you, I'm going to at least try it. I really am.
I'm searching right now. Can you give me the lottery numbers for the next Powerball drawing? Says, sorry, I can't provide the winning numbers for the next one. Lottery draws are random. Each number combination has an equal chance of being selected. So ChatGPT, you might have just said, hey, generate 5 random numbers.
Maybe.
But it's still just 5 random numbers.
Maybe. But the fact that she got the numbers off of ChatGPT, that's what's wild.
It does say, okay, if you like, though, I can generate a random set of numbers you could play for fun with no guarantee. Would that be helpful?
Say yes.
Yes, please,
yes.
Robot Overlord, because you got to be nice to ChatGPT because when it becomes sentient, you want it to remember that you said please and thank you.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, please, Robot Overlord.
Oh, dear God.
What is it going to say back? It says, haha, your Robot Overlord humbly apologizes. Here's 5 random numbers.
What are the numbers?
7, 18, 33. I can't tell you, and this is going to win.
That's so great. By the way, Texter says, I am a Walford fan. I did go to the game, and the crowd was pretty good, but not like in the old days. Texter also says, Walford's actually better than their record. If you look at their losses, they've all been close. They could easily be 5-2. Well, hey, appreciate you listening to the show, Walford fan, and keep doing so. Keep toe-lowing, and maybe I'll see you at Walford. I do love going to Walford basketball games. I go to a good many.
When we come back, let's hear from the athletes and the coaches alike. Our audio blitz next. So, earlier, Cole, we had Jack Veltri on, and he was at South Carolina Gamecocks baseball scrimmage, I guess. He was at some sort of South Carolina workout. Well, they're doing those all over the SEC, and at Tennessee, fans can get in to those events. And fans there at Tennessee started a "We Want Tony" chant, talking about Tony Vitello, who is apparently in line for the Giants job, the San Francisco Giants job. So fans there are chanting to try to keep one of their coaches around. Interesting stuff going on.
I saw
there.
a video just a second ago of him hugging people in the dugout.
That's not good.
Not if you're a Tennessee fan.
And another piece of breaking news: the SEC has fined Texas A&M $50,000 for faking injuries against Arkansas.
$50,000. Just pocket change.
Yeah, they
find it in the couch.
I mean, you could throw a football from on top of the stadium and hit a fan that's got $50,000 in their bank account. They'll just give up, pay that, and move on with their day. Let's do our audio whip around, Cole. See what's going on out there in the sports world and hear directly from the players and the coaches themselves. Let's hear what it sounded like when George Springer hit that go-ahead 3-run homer in the bottom of the 7th to lift the Toronto Blue Jays past the Seattle Mariners and ultimately win the ball game because Seattle couldn't get anything going really after that.
Left field, Rosarina, where does it go?
It just sounds like pure white noise.
It does, and I would love to be there.
I mean, look, we've all watched big football games. We've heard crowds go wild when there's a long touchdown run, but I don't think there's a sound in sports quite like a baseball crowd losing it for a playoff walk-off type of home run.
It's just a pop. Right.
Yeah.
It is electric. I've said it multiple times the past couple of weeks. Regular season baseball this year sucked for me because I didn't watch a lot of it because the Braves were so bad. But playoff baseball, there's nothing like it. I mean, if you're a baseball fan, it has been so much fun this postseason. And Friday, we're going to get one more.
Let's hear from John Schneider, the manager of those Toronto Blue Jays. This was an interview on the field talking about just how he feels in that moment.
It's an understatement. Yeah, I've said proud about 1 million times this year. Bottom of the order strikes again to set it up for the big boys, so it's how we do it. It's a total team effort, and you never know who it's going to be. And it's so fitting that Georgie had that swing tonight.
Absolutely. Listen, not an easy job to be a major league manager. I'm watching you greet your players. You've got tears. You're laughing, you're hugging.
Yeah.
On a personal note, John, how satisfying is this?
This is unbelievable for me.
He said bleeping, right?
Yeah.
This is my 24th year with this organization, and I love it here. These fans, this country, you deserve all of this. It's not about me. It's about every single one that's behind me, and I couldn't be happier to represent this team.
Go get your AL trophy, John.
I'm sure the team is going to fine him for that. The league is going to fine him for that, but he doesn't bleep and care.
That'd be all right.
He's making money. He's fine. Let's hear from Vladimir Guerrero Jr., also on the field post-game.
If you can just give us a few words, how are you feeling right now?
Amen. We do this for the city, man. We do this for y'all. We do this for y'all. 4 more, baby. 4 more.
4 more. I'm going to let you celebrate with your teammates. This has been such a special season, Vladdy. At what part in this game did you think we're going to come back like we did so many times during the regular season and get this done?
I mean, we believe in each other. We believe in this team. The first day has been training. We believe it all. And thank you, fam, for with the energy. We need the energy for you guys. Thank you.
The job's not finished yet, Vladdy. Enjoy. We'll see you in the clubhouse.
I'll tell you what, they better celebrate now. They better celebrate while they can.
They're going to pay him.
Shohei is coming. Congratulations. You get Shohei and the Dodgers. Ooh, I hate to be a Blue Jays fan, man.
It feels like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has been with the Blue Jays for like 20 years. It's only been 7 seasons, but it feels like he's been around with Toronto for a long, long time. Let's jump over to the NFL here for a minute. Let's hear from Dan Campbell on last night's Monday Night Football win against the Bucs.
Get back in the win column. Guys responded, which knew they would, and man, defense played lights out. I give a lot of credit to Kelvin Shepard, the plan to go in against these guys, knowing what we were getting ready to face. And those DBs, man, Millette and Hallett and Harper and Whiteside and Meek and Rock, Strickland had to come in and play a little bit. And Flowers, I just thought those guys, Jim O'Neill, Shea Townsend had those guys ready to go. And I think they competed, they challenged. And man, our front came alive. The backers played really big for us, those 3 in the middle. And so it was just an outstanding defensive performance. Offensively,
held the Buccaneers down to just 9 points.
Yeah, man.
The Bucs had been playing really, really good offensively. Jahmyr Gibbs had himself a huge day as well.
Yeah, I watched that game. I didn't watch the second one as intently, obviously, because it didn't come on until 2 a.m. this morning, it felt like. But, it was a good game. I had the Buccaneers, I think, on like a teaser plus 13, so I was pulling for Tampa Bay, but they just never got it going last night. The Detroit Lions looked like the Detroit Lions we saw a couple of years ago. And the NFL, it's such a week-to-week league. You want to be playing your best football, into November, going into December. But Diesel, they didn't look like themselves last night. Tampa Bay didn't, is who I'm talking about. And I know Baker, you lose Mike Evans, you have other guys go down, whatever. But they just, going back to what I said in the first hour of the show, I thought they were the lock for the NFC South, and they still may be, but let Carolina beat Buffalo Sunday, and then my mind might change on that.
I will play some audio from Baker Mayfield coming up next, but, we were just talking earlier about the sound the fans make when they hit a big-time home run in postseason baseball, just how loud that is. Let's compare it head-to-head with audio from that game last night where Jahmyr Gibbs ran for a big-time touchdown in the second quarter of that game.
But I'm not a DB.
Right up the gut, there goes Gibbs. Foot race. Winfield can't get there. Touchdown, Lions.
That kind of fades off, It's not the strongest sound.
It's just not the pop.
There's not a lot of sustain. You compare that again to George Springer's home run, and we're gonna fire this right from the middle of it.
Left field. Arozarena watches it go.
Yeah, it's hard to beat that.
That's just an incredible wall of sound. Let's hear from Baker Mayfield, who is now at that point of the season, Cole, where he's calling out the officiating. Here's Baker.
Third down defensive holding call that wasn't called, and also still pretty damn confused about the double review. A lot of things in that game that a little questionable, but a lot of frustration at the end of that. And you might be displaced onto John Hussey in the moment, but I work off and I put a lot into this game. So when things that I don't seem are deemed fair, I'm going to let somebody know, and that's good, bad, and different.
He did, Diesel. I don't know if you saw this or not, but it caught my eye last night during the game when this play he was talking about, or the missed holding. He literally, I thought he was going to get in big trouble. He walked almost right up to the official, finger in his face, just yelling. And it was fun to watch as a fan. You're like, go get him. But obviously there's going to be consequences. Baker Mayfield last night just didn't look comfortable. He had a 23.7 QBR. He was 28 of 50. He did throw for 228, but one touchdown, one interception, and QBR measures so many different things within the quarterback's game. That might have been Baker's lowest QBR of his career, 23.7. He was not good last night.
Let's hear from the embattled head coach of the Miami Dolphins, Mike McDaniel, listing who would be their starting quarterback this week.
I need some medicine.
Since we're taught not to assume anything in journalism, and since Tua leads the league in interceptions, I guess we probably should ask you, will he take all the first-team practice snaps this week, and will he be your starter for the next several weeks, barring injury?
Yeah, he's going to take the snaps this week, and he's going to be our starter this week. And my expectation is that we don't throw 10 picks.
I don't know if that's Mike throwing Tua under the bus. I don't know really what he meant by that. My expectation is that we don't throw 10 picks.
I'm so checked out on that guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I joke right there that I need medicine before I listen to him. He's hard to listen to right now. And, he used to not be that way.
That might be one of the most lucid statements he's made all season
You could
long.
understand it.
Yeah. There was minimal minimal ums, minimal changes of direction in what he was talking about.
It's bad, man.
Let's go to the college football ranks, Cole. This is PJ Fleck, row the boat himself, head coach of the Minnesota Golden Gophers. I guess wherever he was last week, there was a field storming. He actually says, I kind of like it.
Oh.
It's euphoric, but I think the longer you're in it, you want to get off the field as fast as possible. I remember the first few crowd stormings I was ever a part of. I loved it. I was in the middle of it. They're interviewing you. All the fans are around you. The students are around you. And I know this, right when they started running on the field, I took off towards the tunnel. And it's funny because as I'm running to the tunnel, I see Quay Parrish running to the tunnel too. Last year, he was lifted up by the crowd storming and having a great time. He's matured and learned as well. He was the first one into that tunnel because he knew what was coming. But I absolutely love him. I think it's what makes college football really special. It's for the student body. It's for the people who are buying tickets. It's for all your fans who support you all year. They don't get the game. They don't get to play. That's a euphoric moment, memory that gets to stay with our fans forever. So I'm a huge Storm fan, a field storming advocate for sure. And I think it's a great part of college athletics.
So they just beat Nebraska 24-6 last week.
Yeah.
And that's where that whole statement comes from. But isn't it funny how we've got so much back and forth on the concept of field storming in all sports, whether it be basketball, court stormings, and in football. Why don't we have it in baseball, right? Why don't baseball fans storm the field? Why didn't Toronto fans storm the field last night? It's a cultural thing that's mostly football and basketball, pretty much nothing else.
It is weird. But I hate to throw shade here. There was no field storming Saturday in Clemson. I take that back. There were a few kids that gathered at the Paul, but there wasn't a lot of field storming on Saturday.
I do question if PJ Fleck, and I don't know what the Big Ten's policy is on this. Is PJ Fleck basically saying, damn the fines, storm the field, and I'll pay for it? Because the university has to pay the league for this in most conferences. Sure. I don't know exactly how it works in the Big Ten. Let's go to the Texas A&M head coach, Mike Elko, who was asked.
Oh, he's leaving, right?
Hey, man, are you going to take the Penn State job?
And then there's multiple national reports out that you're a possible candidate for the Penn State job. I'm just curious, your thoughts on that, how you handle your name being linked to that kind of job, and if that's something you even discuss with your players.
I don't discuss it with my players. I think it's absolutely hilarious how you guys cover coaches. I think 3 weeks ago I was getting fired. Now I'm getting hired. Now I got that you don't want me to stay, but I'm leaving. Like it's absolutely hilarious. It is a waste of brain space to spend any time talking or thinking about any of that stupidity.
Yes.
Oh, Mike Elko, he's good, man, isn't he? He's good.
There are questions that even as reporters, I'm sure like, hey, I'm going to get a bad answer for this.
Sure.
But I want to be the one to ask this question because then I will be publicly reported as the one who asked this question. I mean, Jack Veltri had to ask Shane Beamer, hey, are you thinking about making more coaching changes after that loss to Oklahoma the other day?
Yeah.
And then Shane does what Shane does, ripped him a new one, And of course, that goes kind of mini viral, not all the way viral in the coaching world, because it's like court stormings at this point. Shane Beamer does that so often in his press conferences that it's not really that big a deal that he rips guys like that anymore. But, sometimes you got to ask the question because you need to have the answer and you need to be publishing the answer to that question. So there you go. That is your audio blitz. Don't want to spend any more time like kind of going back over that Stephen A. Smith audio, but he really said on a podcast on the 7 p.m. in Brooklyn podcast, I don't like LeBron James.
Yeah, it's personal. I also will tease this. I have a piece of audio tomorrow at 4:45 of Lane Kiffin. If you're a Clemson fan, you might like this, Diesel. Lane Kiffin said something to the media this morning or yesterday about Brent Venables, because, they're playing Oklahoma this weekend, about Brent Venables sign stealing. And this may be new to a lot of people out there listening, but this is nothing new. This has been the MO of Brent Venables for a long, long time. I've heard it. I'll go into deeper detail tomorrow at 4:45, though, with that audio.
Or is it the MO of Lane Kiffin to be petty the week before playing somebody? Because he did just call Kirby Smart fat.
I've heard this for a long, long time about Brent Venables, and from some pretty good sources. Nothing wrong with it. If you're going to be a great coach, you have to be great at everything, right? And that includes sign stealing. But that will be tomorrow at 4:45. By the way, Diesel and I will be live tomorrow at Ingles on Locust Hill Road in Greer. Coop and Greer already texted the show, said he was going to come by. So I hope to see some of you Tolos out there tomorrow.
So did Rick.
Oh, boy.
Rick's going to come by and settle the debate.
No, never mind. We're not going to be there. We're not going to be in Greer tomorrow. Oh, boy. Rick and Greer, that should be fun. Tolos, in case you missed it, Jack Veltri next. Every single Tuesday at this time, we are joined live by Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central. You all know Jack and who he is now, but we've been having him on for a long, long time. We're what you call a day one with Jack Veltri. Jack, did you make it in? We're getting some rain here in the upstate. Did you make it in back to wherever you're calling from the protest in time? Were you protesting Mike Shula?
No, I was not at the protest today, guys. I am actually over at Founders Park. We've got some fall baseball going on. So
that's just not acceptable. I just hate to tell you.
It's a better place to be than the which did you guys see the video of that? It was like 20 people there.
Hey, it's only about the thought, the effort. A for effort, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's a bunch of frat boys just having fun, right?
Hey, Jack, what was the second half of your question that Shane cut off, where you said, what gives you hope, ... And then he cut you off, started talking about what he wanted to talk about. Obviously, can you, I want to give you an opportunity to get that whole question out there.
Well, for one, the initial question got cut off to begin with, where I was basically asking, hey, do you feel like, I probably could have worded it a little better, like, hey, like, do you feel like you need to make another change, more so this time with the play calling or the offensive scheme? You could take it in a lot of different directions there, but I didn't really get that full thing out. And then he brought up the infamous quote, "I made a change last week, Jack," with Lonnie Teasley. The other part of it, once he kind of answered that, I kind of just tried to get something else in. And the first thing that came to mind was, what gives you hope? And I think that was probably just going to be the extent of it. But what gives you hope that the offense is going to be able to get this thing turned around? And then he said, next question, and then he went back to it. So.
Well, Jack, ultimately, I feel like while a lot of fans are protesting, or 20 fans are protesting, and a lot of fans are upset about Mike Shula and the play calling, and rightfully so, I said to Diesel in the last segment, when I watched the Kentucky game, we watched what happened against Virginia Tech. We thought the offense might get better after the second week, and then you get to Kentucky, and you're talking about a bad Kentucky team, and your team having to be bailed out by special teams and the defense. The score was lopsided, but the offense didn't do a whole lot against Kentucky. I knew then that South Carolina had problems. When you look at kind of where this team is now, if they were to make a change, let's say they fired Mike Shula tomorrow, do you really feel like anything would be different, or do you feel like this team, they are who they are at this point?
I think it depends on who you promote, right? Because we see UCLA is the popular example where they hired Jerry Neuheisel, who a few days before had never even put on a headset before to call plays, right? And UCLA's offense has been so much more dynamic since then. So I think that case applies where, like, if you bring up a young guy who's never called plays before, I think they have a few guys. One guy that would be interesting to see is they have Davis Cutter, who's like the assistant quarterbacks coach. He's someone maybe that you would want to ideally promote if that came to fruition. But I think for South Carolina, I think you're probably sticking with Shula the rest of the way, though Shane did say multiple times now that if he feels it's necessary to make a change, he's going to go ahead and do it.
Jack, I got a chance to ask Lenoris Sellers about, the second touchdown, or the first touchdown drive, the lone touchdown drive, but the second trip inside the 5. They ultimately went for it on fourth down again, not having gotten it the first time, but they got it the second time. In your mind, what was the reasoning for making that fourth down, leave it in Lenoris Sellers' decision? Was it confidence in Lenoris, or was it, we absolutely have to get 6 points here or this game gets away from us?
I think it was just absolutely, you need to get 6 points here. And I think for South Carolina, the thing about those two drives in the red zone, Diesel, was that they ran 8 plays, right? They went for it twice on fourth down on both of those sequences, once apiece. And 6 of those plays were handoffs in the middle.
Yeah.
You didn't put the ball in Norris's hands much at all. You had him throw that one pass to Nick Arbor for the touchdown, and then the other one was supposed to be a pass play, I think, but the pressure broke down immediately, and Lenoris was brought down on what was just a 2-yard game when he had to kind of scramble a little bit. There were no design quarterback runs in there. And I think that was what is kind of missing, I think, in those situations, because why are you taking the ball out of your best player's hands? I get it. You want to run the ball on first and second down with your running backs after that 36-yard run. Okay, that's fine. But I think they needed to do something a little bit more creative rather than, hey, we're going to hand it off 3 straight times. It's one thing when you're at the 1-yard line, but when you're getting stuffed once and twice with Matthew Fuller, and then you're doing it again, you're putting yourself in a much tougher spot, even if you're at literally the 1-yard line, more like the half-foot line, and you got to get into the end zone. That makes it a lot tougher. And luckily, South Carolina got the touchdown there with Sellers throwing the Harbor, but that was a much tougher sequence than I think it really needed to be.
Talking to Jack Veltri, Gamecock Central. He joins us every Tuesday at this time during football season. Jack, do you not find yourself surprised that with the pressure on Mike Shula, we haven't seen more of just circus offense in terms of him going out there on Saturdays and just throwing the kitchen sink on the field? Has that surprised you a little bit?
A little, but I think at some point, I don't know. I think we're going to get into a situation where this thing either eventually clicks or it doesn't. I mean, I don't really think there's much in between. I think at some point, you're really hoping the answer comes to where he's able to get this thing figured out. But it's also about, like, players on the field have to execute as well, right? Like, it's not as much as the blame does probably fall on Shula's shoulders. There's more that this team needs to do. Like, the blocking's got to be better up front, for one. You also need to make better decisions if you're Lenore Sellers. Sorry if you're going to hear the music behind me in the background. But, you know, there's other things. Like the run game hasn't been there for South Carolina. So a lot of it is ultimately on Shula, and I do think they need to get back to being a bit more creative, because I just wasn't a fan of all the handoffs up the middle and stuff, especially at the goal line.
Yeah.
Like, you have a freak of nature athlete in Lenore Sellers. Let's utilize him a little bit more. And honestly, just do something different. I mean, whatever you're doing right now is clearly not working. The sample size is big enough offensively to where you're just not getting the results you want. If it were me, I would try something completely different. Like, do it like Dowell-Loggins last year. Put the ball in your best player's hands, whether it's Sellers, whether it's Nick Harbor, whether it's one of your tight ends, whoever that may be, whoever's giving you the best chance to go out there and put points on the board, the ball needs to be in their hands, in my opinion.
Talking to Jack Veltri, Gamecock Central at Jack T. Veltri is where you can find and follow him on Twitter. Earlier today, Shane broke the news that he thinks Kason Henry is out for the season. Tough blow for an already kind of banged up offensive line there. What can you tell us about his injury and how they're going to try to fill that space?
Well, it is a shoulder injury. So that happened on the first play of the Missouri game a few weeks back. And it had been a situation where he's missed all the games since then, and you hoped he would be able to make it back at some point, but he's going to be out this weekend, and like you said, he will probably be out the rest of the year for South Carolina, and that's a tough blow because Kason was playing really, really well, I think, early on this season, despite all of South Carolina's OL troubles. The problem for him is that he's always been banged up throughout his career, and you hate it because I'll be honest, this is probably one of the more intelligent football players I've ever gotten the chance to talk to. He knows what he's talking about, can tell you what's going on with the offense, what's going wrong, what's going right, and how, they're going to try and correct it. And, to not have a guy out there like that, it hurts because he's one of your better players on the offensive line. How you're filling that spot, you filled it with Tree Babalati starting the last few weeks, and I expect that to continue to be the case moving forward until proven otherwise. They're down a lot of offensive linemen right now, but the good news today is that the other 5 that were banged up, whether they were missing the game the other day or got injured during the game, they were all back out practicing today.
Jack, not to be Mr. Doom and Gloom, but what does this fan base have to cheer for? What does this team have to play for the rest of the way?
Well, you're asking the wrong person here since I'm Mr. Negative. But in all seriousness, I do think that they got to play for a bowl game, right? You gotta find a way to scratch off a win here, one of these next 3 games, in order to do that, because you got to win 3 of your next 5 games, and that's no small task. I think you can beat Coastal. I think you can beat Clemson. but you got to find a way to get a win otherwise. And guys, I'm leaning towards Alabama on this game, obviously, but there's a part of me that after hearing Shane today and hearing the players, I don't think everything is fixable within a week, but there's part of me that sees like what's happened in the past before where South Carolina's been in these spots where nobody believes in them, everyone counts them out, and then they go out here and put up this great performance and they pull off a stunner. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I have a funny feeling that it would not be. Don't rule it out, I would say.
Jack, what was your overall take on the fact that it took all the way until I think a minute to go in the third quarter before South Carolina had a pre-snap penalty on offense? They did have a pass interference a little bit earlier in that quarter, but you know, some of the issues that had plagued them so often over the course of the season offensively were pretty much gone throughout the majority of that Oklahoma game.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, and the good news is none of those pre-snaps were on the offensive line, which is a really good sign in the right direction that not everyone wants to talk about. Everyone wants to talk about the negatives, but how about the positive in that they only had 4 penalties in that game, and none of them were on the OL. I think that's a big positive and step in the right direction when you're limiting those mistakes. Now you just got to figure out, okay, how do we run a capable offense that can go out there and actually score points to put up on the board? So that's a much bigger problem that is a lot tougher to figure out. But at least you're cleaning up the self-inflicted stuff that has shot yourself in the foot so many times throughout the season.
Jack, let's get into Alabama. What do you see? I mean, you mentioned a little bit of optimism. I said earlier in the show, my optimism tank with South Carolina has officially hit the E, and I don't think there's any in the reserve either. What do you feel like South Carolina, Alabama on Saturday could present? I know you just shared in terms of how you could see South Carolina play better just because of, you know, recent years. They somehow, some way do figure out a way to turn things around toward the end of the season or the latter part. What's your biggest concern, though, when you look at Saturday's game?
And don't get me wrong, I'm not optimistic about Saturday either. I think there's just the optics.
Yeah.
We've seen this story before. We saw it last year with Alabama, where Carolina had that awful loss to Ole Miss. Everyone said they were done, and then they go out there and lose by 2 and had the lead in the fourth quarter. So my point is, I think that is possible again this weekend, just because nobody's giving them a chance. And I'm not giving them a chance this weekend to win. I don't think anyone will pick South Carolina. That's just the reality of the situation. This Alabama team is very good. Yeah. I mean, let's talk about a team that looks completely different from the one at Florida State. I think they have overcome their road struggles from last season. They went to Missouri, won a tight game there. They went to Georgia in Athens that night and won there. So what's stopping them from going to South Carolina at Williams-Brice Stadium for a day game and winning that one? I think Alabama is going to be fine. Quarterback play has been phenomenal. Ty Simpson, I think, is your Heisman front runner right now. They got some really good weapons on the outside with Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams, and Jam Miller has been pretty good at running back. And the defense has been banged up a little bit, but I mean, that group, they had the 100-yard pick 6 the other night. I mean, this is a group that is really rounding into form. I think Kalen's got them playing well at the right time, and they've walked the tough road to get here. They've beaten a lot of ranked teams in a row, and they've been very sharp.
Jack, most of the time when an athletic director comes out and releases a vote of confidence in a head coach, it's writing on the wall, right? We know what's coming in the very near future. Mike Norvell got his. A lot of people think he's right there on that edge of getting fired. Hugh Freeze said that he would love to get a vote of confidence from his athletic director. If you woke up tomorrow morning to the news that Jeremiah Donati had released a statement of confidence in Shane Beamer and you weren't the one breaking the story, would you take that as a positive or a negative?
I don't know. I mean, a vote of confidence can go like multiple ways. Like, I don't know honestly how to answer that, Diesel. I think if he got a vote of confidence from Donati, I think it would just mean that he's good to go for next year more than anything. Yeah. But I mean, it's anyone's guess what happens after that, right?
Jack, we hear baseball in the background. What's the latest? Where you at? And a little fall camp starting up, right?
Yeah, man. This is the second fall baseball scrimmage of the season for the Gamecocks. They have been getting going for about a week now, but Pulmonary's kind of changed it up to where the teams scrimmaging a little later than normal, so they'll run closer to Thanksgiving. But beautiful weather day out here. It's 0-0 right now in the bottom of the second inning, and things are looking good. I think we all need some Gamecock baseball in our lives with how football's been going, and men's basketball. We got men's basketball content tonight too with Garner and Black Madness. So some other sports to kind of keep you occupied.
Yeah, I was just about to ask about that, Jack. On the basketball side of things, men's and women's, obviously the news last week, was it, that Chloe Kitts was going to be out? Just kind of your general thoughts as we're a couple of weeks away from things really getting started with basketball.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know, I personally don't cover women's very closely. We have Chris Wellbaum, who does a great job with that already. So my eyes are typically on the men's team, and from what I can just tell, just with the women's team and stuff, it's tough to replace Chloe Kitts. I mean, there's no doubt about it. She's a really good player for South Carolina, and someone that it was definitely viewed as an early WNBA draft pick in the first round, potentially. I think for South Carolina, without really knowing much about this team, they're down 2 players right now with some injuries. How can South Carolina fill those voids? That's going to be very interesting to see. I know they brought in some nice players from the portal and stuff, but I do wonder how the size of this team will be affected with 2 forwards being out for the year.
Jack, you're the best, man. Appreciate you. You're rocking and rolling. You're busy. And people, again, can follow you on Twitter at Jack T. Veltri and follow your work where?
You can follow me, like you said, Jack T. Veltri on social media for Twitter. I'm over there. I'm pretty active all the time. You can also go ahead and join me on GamecockCentral.com. Again, I got baseball updates on there right now, basketball updates tonight, Shane Beamer updates. I mean, look, I do it all over there.
You're the man.
And, check out a lot of my work.
You are the man. Thanks, Jack.
I appreciate it, fellas.
Jack Veltri, Gamecock Central. He's literally, I mean, what a busy day. Does he live on campus?
way to end off the show than with a crappy segment.
Okay.
And by crappy, I mean Kohler, the brand that makes toilets and faucets and things like that. Kohler has just debuted the hottest new product on the market that they really want you to buy. And it is a tiny little camera that clamps to the inside of your toilet bowl.
Oh my God, I heard about this.
And takes video and photos of your poo and your pee, studies it, and then sends you notifications on your phone as to whether or not your scat looks healthy.
I heard about this today on a music radio station. You know, in between breaks, they say, you know, the little news. I heard a lady talking about this.
Yeah.
That's weird. Twice in one day?
$100.
No, it's not.
$600.
No, it's not $600.
This thing looks roughly the size of a cell phone. It clamps to the side of the toilet bowl, and then it kind of goes over the toilet bowl, and there's a camera inside.
You said $600.
And that's not all. That's not all. There's a
more.
subscription fee.
Of course.
Yeah. If you want the lower tier analysis, it's $70 a month. It's $156.
No way.
Not 70 a month per year. 70 per year, or $156 per year, depending on which plan you choose. And then I guess it analyzes. So it says it doesn't look at your parts. It says it's not taking a look between the cheeks. It's just, it's looking at what falls downwards. Though I don't see how it couldn't. I don't see how it couldn't see these things. But they say that they're going to use the data. Also, here's one fun part about it. It's got a fingerprint scanner on it, so that it can identify who is using the toilet.
Sanitary, does it?
Well, you hope that. I guess what you do here, and I'm going to walk you through my mental picture of what happens.
Thanks.
Here. You walk into the bathroom, you drop trowel, and then you sit down on the toilet. You clench for a second, while you scan your fingerprint, and it gives you the beep. All good. We've identified you, Cole. You're ready to go. And so then you do your business, and over time it analyzes it and sends it to your phone and tells you whether or not you're healthy. And then when you get up, you don't have to touch the thing again. Like, you don't have to sign in, sign out. You just have to sign in, times out over a certain amount of time, and then, you're off to the races. But it's so gross. It's so weird. Like, I know people, I think everybody has somebody in their life who is way too addicted to technology, but this is too far.
Here's what I have to say about that. This crazy, crazy story or product. Let me say product.
It's a real thing.
I am going to defer to Lane Kiffin, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Lane Kiffin. I'm sorry. I had that wrong. Not Lane Kiffin. I don't know why I had Lane Kiffin. I'm trying to pull up audio. I said Lane Kiffin. I meant Paul Feinbaum.
I don't really know what to say.
That's all I really have to respond to your product here. Is you're, I guess, trying to sell me on this brand new product?
No, I don't really know what to say.
Though, like, you and I are saying this is crazy, right? But there's somebody listening, driving home right now, who says, you know what? I'd buy that. I'd spend the money on that.
But here's the thing, like, is it a good thing that what's being analyzed? Maybe it's not a bad thing, but who's going to spend $700 on that? That's what's ridiculous.
$700 once and then $150 a year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because if you're willing to spend that kind of money, if you're already willing to spend $600, why not invest the extra $80 a year to get all the information you could possibly get?
I don't really know what to say.
I really don't know what to say. I don't know. That's weird. I heard, again, this is twice now I've heard about this product today on two different radio stations, including this one.
I do wonder if your doctor could prescribe it. If your doctor prescribes it and your insurance pays
my gosh,
for it,
what is it, like Ozempic? Is that what we are?
I don't want to spend money on this, but let's just pretend for a minute that I was going through gut health issues.
Yeah.
And I go to the doctor, and the doctor says, hey, we're going to need, as much information about your gut health as we possibly can. And they say, we got this new thing.
Oh my God.
And
a camera
that goes in your toilet. And you're only going to have to copay $100 on this thing.
Oh, wow. Yeah. $100.
Like, we'll pay, the insurance will pay $500. You're only going to have to pay $100. and then you'll get like daily up-to-date information on what's going on.
No,
Is that
thanks.
not worthwhile?
No, thanks. I don't want to have to touch it. I don't want to have to fool with it. I don't want it in my bathroom. That's just weird. That's where we are, though, in this world we live in.
Everybody depends on technology way too much.
They do. Hey, Diesel, tomorrow you and I will be on Locust Hill Road in Greer. It's the Ingalls location off of Locust Hill Road. I want to invite you, Tolos, to come out 1524 Locust Hill Road. We will be there tomorrow from 3 to 7. Hopefully, we will see the one and only Melissa Level from Ingalls Markets. I got to see her this weekend as she was making her way to Spartanburg for Wofford Furman. But we'd love to see you there. A hump day edition of the show. Upset picks, Bill Bender, and so much more, Tolos.
And we'll be giving away toilet cameras.
Oh, that's poo. That's gross.